Great people know that the greatness doesn't come from inside them. It comes from someplace else and passes through them. This allows them to be humble, making them even more great.
Welcome, everybody, to the Warrior Podcast. I have a special guest today. I've been trying to get him on here a long time. He's a dear friend of mine, former floor trader and floor broker. He worked on many trading floors. He's done stuff in the banking industry. His passion is music. He's a professional musician. He's got a lot of tenure playing, writing, playing with very famous musical groups. He's a theorist, which he'll explain. He's a funny MFer, and I love him to death. With that said, welcome, Mark Hebert, my brother.
I love you too, Frank. Thanks for having me out. Thank you for having me out for the fun of this too. But additionally, it's been a while since I thought about some of the memories and the trading floors and all the stories and stuff like that. And I was thinking, since we agreed that we would do this, a lot of stories came flooding back, and they're just so fun, and I have a hard time remembering everybody's names, but I can see their ghosts on the floor and everywhere else for all these other stories and stuff, but they all came flooding back. Also, you caused me a bit of insomnia because I keep waking up laughing because of these stories that keep crossing my head. And, I couldn't remember people's names, and, yesterday I texted Scott Rabin, and I go, who was this, and he goes, geez, I can't remember. And I said, it's right on the tip of my tongue. And when I think of it, you're going to say, oh my God, yes. And then I called Ryan McGuire, RTM, and I said, who was that person that was there? And he goes, oh, you mean Leslie Hunter? And I'm like, yes. And I texted Scott, and he's like, you're right. Oh my God.
Yeah. So awesome. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Forget the guy in the beer commercial, the most interesting man alive. I think this is going to be you. But I like to start, early in your life, growing up, how you kind of got interested in music and stuff like that. So take me as far back as where you want to begin.
I'm going to go back to like swing sets. When you're on a swing set that young, and, like when I was playing the piano, I had to sit on a couple of phone books when I started playing the piano. But I'm a very spiritual person. I don't know where it came from really, but I've always been that way, where I thought that God's primary language was music, because everybody understands music. There isn't a nationality that it's not going to harmonize with. Dogs, cats, dolphins, it's all music. And I think that people can express themselves or communicate better with music than any place else. So that bit me hard, when you're on a swing set and you're singing and stuff like that. And, I was playing around on the piano quite a bit. And one time I got all bold, the piano was like one of the big giant upright pianos, and in the basement of my house in Detroit, suburbs. And my mom was doing the laundry, and I got all cocky, and I go, what should I play? And, I was just messing with harmony and just playing with the keys and stuff. And there's a lot to be said for that. But she said, there was a storm coming. There was a rainstorm coming, had those basement windows. She said, play the storm. So I started playing, like with the thunder, a little delicate off, like in the distance, very quiet and stuff. And then the first couple of drops of rain, and you can smell that raindrops hitting the concrete, that smell. And it just went on and on and on. And then the storm subsided. And there's the Grand Canyon Suite is like that. I can't remember who wrote the Grand Canyon Suite, but it's a lot like that. And my parents were, all through my childhood, people saying like, who's in your family that's so musical that made you this way? And I'm like, well, they weren't really musical, but they were dancers. They were World War II people. So they were constantly ballroom dancing. There was Tommy Dorsey and Glenn Miller and stuff. And we weren't allowed to listen to rock and roll, at that time in those days. I'm the youngest of 6.
Wow.
So, but here's the key turnaround was when I started to try, and I never had any lessons or anything. So this is all, self-taught, self-explored. My brother was a DJ at University of Michigan, and he came home, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, all Pink Floyd, and who's the other? Moody Blues, and he'd put that in. I was like, oh, it's like the Monolith and Planet of the Apes, and he taught me music theory. And he said, if you're looking at music and you want to play a song and the chord is a C or whatever the chord is, I knew where the notes were on the piano. And he said, sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do with the notes. And all your major chords are 1, 3, and 5. The minor chords are flat the third, a half step. And then whatever the chord called for, it's called chord spelling. Whatever it calls for, you just add that note, the seventh, the major seventh, the minor seventh. And I just kept developing it, and playing the bass and stuff. And then the next thing you know, I'm all into Elton John and stuff. And I have my next door neighbor was my best friend. When he was born, my mother drove his mother to the hospital. And we go to reunions back and forth to Detroit with all the kids that we grew up with, not a family reunion, but his younger brother said, I used to sit, I don't know if you know that, but I used to sit on the driveway next to the window where you're playing the piano, listening to you. And he's telling me this, and he's in, I don't know, he's 40, I'm 66 and stuff. And he's telling me this. I go, why didn't you ever say anything? He goes, we thought you were going to be the next Elton John or Billy Joel. And he says, I spent all those years just sitting there listening to you. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened. And if you're going to grow up that tight with something, with that spiritual connection and that much work, it's going to be who you are.
Cool. So you said something that hit home with me. You said you believe like music is God's language.
Yeah.
And, there is a thing called frequency. Mm-hmm. Everything has a frequency to it. Mm-hmm. And there are frequencies that generate life and growth and healing, and then there's bad frequencies that do the opposite. Well, music at the right frequency is that. It is God's language, I believe.
I do too. I do too. It's nurturing.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. You should write a book called with that in there. I want to pause you real quick. Youngest of 6, how does that go down? Are you getting along with your siblings? Is there rivalries? What did your mom make for a big crew like that for food?
It's not just the youngest of 6, but their spouses. Like I had 2 older sisters whose husbands, one of them was a monstrous, he was a church organist, but he would sing in Latin and we'd do cathedrals and stuff. And he was a big mentor that started out. And my brother, Greg,
what were their names?
Jim Krupka was my brother-in-law, and my brother Greg was the University of Michigan. He still lives next to the stadium. You can take a shower and you can hear the crowd.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. So that's a lot of fun and stuff. Jim Krupka was otherworldly brilliant, and he played like church organ, like in a cathedral though.
Wow.
And he'd be singing Latin, and then he kind of brought me up, and this is another reason why I play so many instruments now, is because of the theater and churches and stuff like that. Is he had me play trumpet in a Baroque mass in a cathedral. And I was like 10 or 12, somewhere in there, So I've had all this kind of exposure and stuff. And that playing the storm thing that I told you about, my mom and dad used to take us to the silent movies a lot. And how the church organist, you get some, like in the cartoons and stuff, and you're like, or the Wicked Witch of the West, and they'd have their own themes, and Darth Vader had his own theme, and the stormtroopers, dum 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 dum. So I was all in tune with that. And one time, I was vamping at Buddy Guy's Legends. I'll never forget this. I'm vamping, with the band, we're playing at Buddy Guy's, but Buddy will come up on stage and he'll greet the people and stuff like that. And we're vamping blues and stuff, and he's talking, and he goes, yeah, we just got back from Australia and we're having real problems with women. And I went, like in the thunder in the thing, and he kind of cocked his head over to me and he goes, yeah, we're having real problems. And I did another, just a little one, and I usually play like 2 to 6 keyboards when I'm playing on a keyboard bay, and the top one is an organ. And he's talking and stuff, and he goes, yeah, we're busy as bees. And then the organ on the top, I went, And he goes, ooh, I love what you're doing. I mean, he's talking to the keyboard player when he's presenting and stuff. We have our own little ballet going on, and I'm laughing and he's laughing, but I'm always pranking people. And that's the accompanist part, is like, you know, in the silent movies, you're decorating around something that's going on with the singer or the band or in the music.
Hey everybody, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors. My dear friend Andy Thompson is the owner and operator of Talon Studios. Talon Studios makes custom knives. This is one of the first knives he made it for me. It's extremely sharp. Everything is made by hand. The handles, the grips, everything. They're beautiful, durable knives. We like to say knives for life. Whether you're a collector or you want knives for utility and function, he even makes the casings for the knives by hand too. Andy works with his son AJ. They are super fine craftsmen, and every knife they put everything, all their heart and soul into their knives. So that's Talon Studios. I will put a link in the description of each of the podcasts, and you'll see their information at the end.
One time I was playing Taste of Chicago on the 3rd of July, which is the biggest night at Taste of Chicago and stuff. We're playing along and stuff.
Who's we? You and Buddy Guys get?
No, that was, it was called the Neighbor Bill Band. And those guys were monsters. They were beasts. I mean, you know, like when I was going to school in Detroit, I was playing in like 7 bands at one time, you know, a solo act. I had a duet, and I was playing in a 7-piece funk band in Detroit. They were all black guys. We were playing all black, and I had to have bodyguards even to go to the washroom, and they'd come in and they go, we got a surprise for you, but don't, you know, he's a brother. So I got that funk.
That's
Detroit.
cool.
Yeah, it is. But we were playing Taste of Chicago, and I'm always decorating. I can't help it. I can't stop. And, you know, turn the page, you know, with the echoes of the amplifiers ringing in your head.
Yeah.
And the singer's singing that, you know, and he knows I'm going to do it because I always do. But he goes, the echoes from the amplifiers ringing in your head. And I go, I give it the echo. And he's like trying not to laugh for the next line and stuff like that. But I'm always pranking people or decorating and stuff. And that's what I think it makes it more entertaining, even if people don't realize what's happening. It is. And it just goes right to the soul.
Yeah, you're spicing up the stew for sure.
Yeah.
How many instruments do you play then?
Let's put it this way. I play all the brass. I wanted to join the Air Force as a trombonist. And this is on a nice radio interview. Do you remember Mark Federighi?
Of course, Marco, yeah.
Well, his brother is Rick Federighi. And when I came out with this album, they had me on the interview and stuff like that. So we talked about this. I wanted to join the Air Force out of high school as a trombonist, because when you join the Air Force as a musician, you enter as an officer and they pay for all your schooling. So that would have been my scholarship. But my mom said, there's 2 things you're not doing. And I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. So she goes, you're not getting a motorcycle and you're not joining the military. And we talked about it, you know, because part of it was patriotism and stuff like that. But the Army ransacked Dad's family during World War II. They took all the brothers. There was 9 of them. And they took all of them and left my aunt and my grandma to suffer. Like they didn't have any income.
9 boys?
8 boys, 1 girl.
Gotcha.
Their names are all on a monument in River Rouge.
Wow.
You know, one after another, all my uncles and my dad. So I didn't, I couldn't, you know, she was just embittered about, we paid our dues, you're not going. I go, it's just a band. I'm just, you know, she goes, if anything happens, you'll have been through boot camp and you'll get called up. You're not going. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I ended up twice full ride from the Montrose Jazz Festival. The first one was on the trombone. And they wanted, the way they coached me into it, they wanted me to have one instrument, because you can do things with a single note instrument that you can't do on the piano, because piano's mallow percussion and it covers the whole thing. So by high school, I'd already been playing in colleges since I was like a sophomore in high school, and a lot of it was theater. And they would come up with different instruments and they'd say, who are we going to get to play that? And they go, get that guy, he'll learn it. Well, who are we going to play that? You know, like these different plays, Jesus Christ Superstar and all this Irma La Douce and all kinds of other. So I just kept playing with the instruments, whatever was in demand. So I play all the brass, trombone, trumpet, tuba, sousaphone, baritone. I'm not too bad at sax. I'm not a virtuoso at any of these. All the guitar family, all the keyboard family, harpsichord, harpsichord, piano, organ.
If you had to pick one, you're on a desert island, which one are you picking? If you could only have one.
We were in Uganda on a mission, and I recorded a Swahili gospel group in this church and stuff, and it's on the website too. It's pretty monstrous, and we were down the street from Gaddafi's biggest mosque at a hotel, and the hotel entrance is like a driveway that goes down to the car park underneath, and there's stairs that go up, then the patio, and then the entrance to the hotel. And when you're in Uganda right now, they don't even have any internet. And I'm still working with them, like in recording, mixing, and mastering, kind of teaching it. Anyway, there was these 4 armed guards on either side of these steps that go up, and there's this platform, and they've all got, what's the Russian rifle?
AK-47.
They've all got AK-47s hanging around them, and they're all dressed in green. They're military, and I don't know why and stuff. But I walked up, and I was down from the thing, down this driveway path, and they're all standing there. And here's my one instrument. You want to see 4 soldiers laughing their fucking asses off. And their guns are clanking against, they're down on the guardrails, and the guns are banging against, they're just laughing their asses off. So that's the one instrument. If I had to have just one instrument, I don't even need one.
Okay. Freaking awesome story.
Isn't that funny? But then, that went on all week. There's that guy. I mean, people would be at the counter, like at the check-in and stuff. They're just laughing. They're going, just get out.
So how are you doing in school? I mean, you're obviously plunging in music. Did you do any sports, or was it all music?
Oh, no. I grew up in Detroit, man. So there was 2 things that I was doing constantly. It was football, baseball, and if it's raining, it's piano or guitar. I think, well, to answer your question, if I'm hired for a band situation, it's usually keyboards.
Okay.
Especially the piano. I'm like a heavy, I'll break a thing. I'll break a piano. Just wow. And if I'm doing a solo gig, it's usually piano and vocals or guitar and vocals. Mm-hmm. Other than that, whatever, mostly the studio musicianship took over after that. I work a lot with Ryan McGuire, so he'll go he go, it's whatever he needs. So I was a residential theorist, and we did Ryan Cheverini, he did Windy City Live, the talk show host. Mm-hmm. Well, Ryan got him as a client, and Ryan got me as the resident theorist. And so when I met Ryan, he goes, "Hi, I'm Ryan Cheverini. I run a talk show host." I go, "I know who you are." So I have to coach you, right? He goes, "Yes." So it was a lot of great stories from that. Just, I could go on and on just about that one. And Ryan McGuire is really a brilliant, he's a brilliant drummer, and he got his degree on Pro Tools, which is the software. So I learned a lot from him.
So Ryan is the son of John McGuire, right? The
right.
McGuire's, all the men that were down there.
Yeah,
he brought his sons down.
McGuires.
Yeah. I liked all those guys. They were funny as hell, ball busters, hardworking, good people, man. The whole crew.
Oh, yeah.
I remember being a runner and, in the meets. And when he had a spread order, you had to find, John McGuire.
Yeah.
And he was notorious for running. He'd be running because they have to go from one pit to the other pit to leg the spreads and stuff. So,
yes.
Yeah, I would never forget that. That's pretty cool.
He spazzes out, just like we've all seen him lose it and stuff. He's like, okay. It's just the characters of them, the characters of everybody and stuff. I just have so much to be thankful for with Ryan McGuire because he really, you learn and you grow when you're working with people.
And I'm just taking a little side street here. Bono.
Bonacorski?
Is he a music? He's a musician too, right?
Well, there's a bunch of them too.
Right. Well, the big guy was the older brother, and then
Jim.
Yeah.
Plays bass with. They had that one big hit. Oh God, you're making it even worse.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to reference that he was a musician. You probably knew him.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
We weren't very personal. We weren't very tight. We didn't talk that much, but we knew of each other.
Yeah, that's cool. Back to schooling, were you good in your subjects too?
Yeah, I mean, all my life I've been really, kind of an acer. And when I got to college, when I got to formal university, because I started college sophomore year of high school. So I was playing in the orchestras and stuff like that. That was ridiculous. I mean, I just, I couldn't even dress, scared the hell out of my mom. Like, what are you doing? Playing all these bars and stuff. You're only 15. But by the time I got to university, so I ended up a twice full ride from the Montrose Jazz Festival. The first one was so hard that like 3 of us passed, me, my girlfriend, Doris, and another guy named Mark, and they shut that whole department down at that university, and they said, you got to audition someplace else. So I did that audition on the piano, and I played Rain Dance off of the Water Sign, Jeff Lorber Fusion. And so I played it, you're playing in front of the jury. There's the whole university and everybody from Switzerland who's going to give you the scholarship. So I got done, and one of the guys goes, "Oh, that's pretty good." And I'm like, "Thanks, man." And he goes, "Where'd you get the music for that?" And I go, I didn't know they had music for it. And he goes, "Well, how did you learn to play it?" I go, it was on the radio. And then, WJZZ new releases? And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." And he goes, "You're in." So I want, it's just by playing by ear. So when I got to university, I didn't really learn anything other than the names of what I was already doing. I never really got more out of it than that. And I think in a lot of ways it hurt me because, just because I'm too, I don't care.
Let me ask you this.
Oh, but I aced all the way through.
Is there a correlation between music and being passionate and very, what I want to say, having a high skill level as a musician and scholastics? Because I think there is. There always seems to be a correlation between somebody who has a high musical aptitude, they have a high scholastic aptitude as well.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Mark Swainbank was that way. He was the bass player with...
I remember him.
Yeah, Swain, and he's got the place in Negril, and they got hit with the hurricane. He's a sweet guy, man, Mark. And there was other musicians in there. There was a big violinist, a concert violinist in the S&Ps, and he's slender and had that tattered coat, the faded red. I don't know, I can't remember his name. And then there was another one that was a monster pianist, and he had a brother. And now I wish I could, in the game show, and you say, "Can I get a little help?" That guy was brilliant. Mike Cahill is a big. He's a big jazz guy. I don't know if he plays. I don't think he plays anything, but
Ice?
Yes.
I did not know that.
It's huge. And he used to go with Dave Wagner. They'd go to the green room and stuff like that. And Dave Wagner came over to my house last year for Rock and Rail, and that was fun. And, they got to come to the studio and hear and stuff like that. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love Mike Cahill. We played a lot of rounds of golf together, him and I and Norm Beister.
Norm.
Yeah.
I think that seriously, the music turns on brain cells that you didn't know you had. And there's other things that'll counter that too. Like if a child is around liars and connivers and stuff like that, that'll rewire them.
It's a fact.
And music will do the opposite. It can heal. There's music therapy. It'll heal you.
I agree. And back to the frequency thing.
Yes.
There's actually frequency levels, hertz and megahertz that, your brain actually absorbs it, and it does affect your body. It could be positive or negative, right?
Yes. So, what do they call that category of spiritual? There's a metaphysics. Metaphysics. There's a whole music scene for the metaphysics, where when you're meditating and you play that music, I can't do it anymore. I can't. That music just freaks me out now because.
Well, I play when I read, so I have a frequency playing, and then
you do
part of meditative chanting is frequency. Catholic, the Catholics like to do the rosary and all of those things over and over again, but they're creating frequency that is giving them fulfillment and healing.
And if they're singing it, it's going in their mask, all the bones in your, and you're just, wow. And I get blown away by that. I mean, I'm just, very, very, very tight with God, and I talk about it in my interview with Mark Federighi on WIMS, like the God comes to the recording studio and he's like, throw in that F sharp, he's got that sense of humor because he does.
Yeah, that's funny. And we're going to get on the faith thing too, but let's get back on your timeline. You've gone to college, you're doing your thing, you get out of college, and then where does your life go there?
To Chicago, because at that time, Detroit was falling apart with the Japanese cars that were coming in, and instead of retooling, which they could have and should have done to keep up with the world, they were bullies to the Japanese cars and they were flipping them over and stuff. And the economy started to turn really bad at that like 1979, 1980 area. And there's two things that happened. One is we had some legal issues with misspelling of my name on one of the scholarships. And, I started to lose, some other benefits that I had. And then they closed the Rooster Tail, which is like the restaurant that I wanted to play on. And this is why one of the reasons why I'm a multi-instrumentalist is my parents would take me to these places and it was all music and art and, like the Ford Theater and stuff like that in this Rooster Tail. And she said, look at that guy. She goes, every 12 measures, he's got a different instrument. He's got a tambourine, and he's got the bongos, then he's playing the trumpet, and then he's got the harmonica and stuff. I want you to be like that guy. And that's one of the things that did it. I forgot what your original question was.
Well, we're going through now. You came to Chicago.
So that started to fall apart. I had a friend that lived here in Chicago, and so I just like decided on a Wednesday that I was moving to Chicago. On Thursday, I was here. On Friday, I had a job.
What age were you approximately?
20.
20?
21, 22, right in there.
Okay.
My previous production company was three-piece suit production company. And the reason for that is because I was, I wanted to get a job and I thought it was a corporate job. And I went into the 95th Street Guitar Center in a three-piece suit, a gray three-piece suit and a briefcase with my resume. I thought it was a corporate business job, or Steinway, because I used to, work in a Steinway and stuff like that. And it turned out to be the Guitar Center. So like everybody's laughing at me, because I'm, and they got the afro that keeps moving as you stop, It's so many stories. So Larry Sherrick comes out and he goes, can you sell? And I'm like, yeah, and he goes, have you got a methodology or steps? And I'm like, yeah, there's the approach, qualifying, presentation, trial close, objections, counter objections, close. You're hired.
Okay, that's right out of the textbook. So.
Right. So I got that and became the manager of the keyboard department there and stuff. And it was just, it was the 95th Street Guitar Center. And that's when I played with B.B. King there. And, there was a Louis Belson, the drummer Louis Belson. And you're around a lot of great people and stuff. Same thing with university. I go like, oh, there's Pat Metheny. Who? I didn't know who Pat Metheny was back then, And I was in seminars with Aaron Copland. As part of my school, you're going to class with Aaron Copland.
Tell the audience who Aaron Copland is.
Aaron Copland is Keith Emerson's mentor. He wrote, oh my God. I'd have to look him up because I have a hard time unless I look at notes and,
Gotcha.
Because this, we're going back in the Wayback Machine.
So you got the job at the Guitar Center. You're selling keyboards. Was that fun? Were you making some dough doing that? Or not really?
I had a lot of things going on because I was playing a lot too.
And you're getting paid to play, yes?
Yeah. And back then they paid more, like now you get like $100 to $200. That's why I don't do it. It's like, dude, I'm worth a lot more than that. And if you're not paying it, I'm not playing it, And so like weddings and, like private engagement, private parties, that was big. That was big money, like Wilmette and stuff like that. Hey, we're having, and then you pull up and they come and get you with a golf cart and they take you out to the tent. Your gear's all set up, or like these bigger concerts, you don't even have to bring your gear. They give you a menu and you say, oh, I want the microphone left to right, boom, at 38 inches. I'll take the Steinway and the B3 and the DX7, and they go, okay. And you walk out on stage, and that's funny too, because one time we were having a family reunion. My sister had cancer and my daughters were now. And they called me up on the stage and I'm like down on the grass and the stage is a truck, like a flatbed with the tent over it, like Taste of Chicago. And they go, wait a minute, and they announced the band and they go, wait a minute, we're missing a guy. And they're all looking down from this ramp. And they go, Mark, come on. So I ran out on the stage and my family's right in front. And you're in Grant Park and stuff. And my daughter, Frankie, says, hi, Daddy. And I went, wait. And I stopped the band. I walked to the front and I go, hi, Frankie. And I walked back to the keyboard. I was like, okay, go. So that just drove the audience nuts. That was fun. But so that was happening. And then I got away, and I don't want to talk about how this happened, but it was almost like a rescue mission with somebody who was into trouble. And I ended up getting into the window business. So now we're more into engineering and stuff like that. But I only meant to be like in the Rockford area for 1 year.
Window business meaning selling windows?
Replacement windows, yeah. Mm-hmm. Back when they were first coming out. Then I made, a lot of money doing that. Then I moved back to Chicago and I got a temporary job at Sargent & Lundy Engineering.
What'd you get your degree in?
Music theory. Yeah. Well,
it's a bachelor. Minor in anything normal?
No, nothing. There's nothing normal over here.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Ain't gonna happen. It's a BJP, Bachelor of Jazz Performance, is what it's called. So it's improvisational jazz. That's why, it worked. It just worked together, being a born accompanist in silent movies and decorating around people. That's improv. I took a house in Chicago and I couldn't get anybody to rent with me, to, move in with me. It was 2 floors and it was Johnny Simpson said yes. One time we were having one of those massive parties. You heard about those? No. We had massive parties. Like they would last all weekend. Like Friday after work. The next day we'd be playing poker and, everything, people sleep. Then the Bears game, and we'd play football and we did everything and stuff like that. But one night, my brother came in from Ohio with Ronnie James Dio. Do you know who that is? Mm-mm. He was the lead singer for Rainbow. I didn't know who he was either. He's just this little guy. He's about that big. And he said, this is Ronnie James Dio. He's the lead singer from Rainbow. And he also was the lead singer in AC/DC. And now you're going to see him everywhere. But I'm like, hey, how you doing? Come on in, And he goes, he's the lead singer. He goes, go play something for us. And we got into like a 2-hour improv.
Awesome.
I didn't know he's making up words and I'm making up chords and we're just clicking, and he's sweating and I'm sweating and everybody at the party was like, what the hell? And so it was fun. It was my night with Ronnie James Dio. And then when he left, he gave me an album. He signed an album. He says, rock out with your cock out.
Nice.
There was a time with that at Sargent & Lundy Engineering. I turned in the work that they gave me as a temporary. And they said, what's this? And I said, it's what you gave me. It's in the library. It was in the library. And I go, it's the assignment you gave me. They go, you're done? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, this was supposed to take you 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, you're going to fire me? Or, because I need I'm not set up yet. And they go, do you think you can write? And I said, yes, I can write. Do you see, if I give you the instructions how to play a game, and I told you what the rules are, do you think you could write the instructions so that somebody who never saw this before could play the game? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. So they showed me what they wanted. They have like beta programs. The engineers are all there. They build piping systems for nuclear power plants, Sargent & Lundy Engineering. So I wrote how to, they were deregulating, and some of these instructions had to go to Springfield for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and some of it had to go to the library and this place and that place. So if there was a disaster, they could recover all these documents, and they had to cross-reference like catastrophic, events with nuclear power plants. And I got done with it. I didn't know what it was really. I just made a microblock flow chart and written language step by step how to get these documents verified, and one's got it here, and when you get it back and stuff. So this whole process, I wrote it. The guy said to me, he goes, congratulations, you just wrote standards and procedures for quality assurance at Sargent & Lundy Engineering.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
And I still have it. I still have it someplace. I wanted to stay at Sargent & Lundy Engineering. And he said, now you're making me on another story. And he said, no, he said, the guy at Sargent & Lundy Engineering, this is the librarian, he goes, there's a lot of people that are making a lot of money in commodities. Why don't you go down to the Board of Trade and find out what's going on? So I went to what I thought was the Board of Trade, and I asked somebody on, because out in the street, you can't really tell. And I go, which one's the Board of Trade? They go, this one. And it was the one next door that was just is it west of the Board of Trade? And the guy was changing the directory on the pin board. You used to put the white letters and numbers and says office this, office that, and it said Chicago Board of Trade, and then it had a number. So I went up to the office, and it was an FCM. And the girl said, "Are you looking for a job?" And I'm like, I go, "Yeah, hi, somebody told me I'd be good in commodities. What are commodities?" And she goes, "You idiot." And so this guy, I keep wanting to say Holden Caulfield because it's Holden Caulfield is the character in Catcher in the Rye. But his name was something else, but it's very close to that. And I told him, I said, "Somebody said that I'd be good in commodities. What are commodities?" And he puts his arm around my shoulder. He goes, "Come on in here, asshole." And he told me what it was. And he said, "There's a lot of really stupid people are making big money and stuff. And you're not that stupid. We think it would be good, but you should go, apply with Merrill Lynch and, Goldman Sachs and a couple before you come over here, because this is just kind of a small fry place." And so I did it and made a ton of money and read every book on commodities there is and technical analysis and stuff.
What were you doing to make money?
Opening up accounts. I was selling, trading accounts, like managed accounts and getting people to trade through us. And, some people were self-directed and some wanted help. And so we did that. And it was just quite bent. It was, how people get in there and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to just get these accounts open. Call your client and just tell him he lost $1,000 in bonds." I'm like, "He only wanted to trade silver. Call him anyway." I'm like, "I'm out of here." So, but Dave Wagner was on the floor and Shirley. And he said, "Come down to the floor." And so I got a job with Madoff that lasted about 3 weeks. And
what were you doing there?
Running.
Just a runner?
Yeah. He said, "Just get on the floor." I mean, I saw it and I'm like, this is improv. So I go, I got on the floor and I'm running maybe 3-4 weeks. And then Johnny Simpson was one of the first people that I met who was trying to replace himself for RJ to have a clerk in the yen. So that's how I learned to arb, and that's how that all got started. And the rest is history.
Which we're going to cover some of that history.
Oh, really? All right.
Oh, really? So you're in the...
I never got to tell my story. I never got to tell a little story. Are you going to lose track if I deviate?
Not at all.
I talked to Wendy this morning before I came out because I asked her some advice and stuff. And she ironically brought up...
Who's Wendy?
Wendy Sukenik. Her brother is Sukenik.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he ran... Jack Carl?
Okay.
So this is the sister. She worked for Capital Markets, Merrill Lynch Capital Markets in the end. So that's how we got started. And we're both horse people. So and we've been friends ever since that. But she brought up, like the quiet times in the pit, because I asked for some advice because there's some controversial things that we could talk about that we won't. We just
we already talked about that. We're going to cover whatever you want to cover. Yep.
Yeah. She goes, "Well, it's like the quiet times on the floor, and she goes, like we're all standing around bored because nothing's happening, and the dead calm, like you're sailing, but there's no wind and stuff. You're like, ahoy, what's happening? Nothing." That time. And she said, "I'll bet you $50 you go knock that guy's toupee off, So it's those times. So I'm going to put these on because this is this is a prop now. And there was that, we have the openings and the closings in the Eurodollars and, they're flurry and stuff like that. But sometimes we get that dead calm. And do you know Kenny Weitzman?
I remember the name.
He's a back month broker, and he had a brother, I think, in the SPOOs, but they're both very high quality people, just sweethearts of gentlemen. And it was dead quiet, and I always wore glasses back then. I've had eye surgery since, so I don't need them. And it was dead quiet, like about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And I had my trading cards and my pen, and for some reason, I stroke a pose, like I look down on the floor, maybe at my shoes. I don't remember why. But Ken Weitzman came flying up at me and he goes, "Hey, Bear, did you lose a contact?" And before I could say, "No, I wear glasses," he said, "Don't anybody move. Hey, Bear lost a contact." So everybody's looking down. They're not looking up at me. They're looking for a contact. It's like 4 or 5 traders and stuff. It's dead quiet and they're ferreting around. And Kenny goes, "Don't move. Don't move. We'll look for you. And so I've got all these guys pawing at me, and they're like checking at my tie and my collar and my shoulders and like my cuff of my pants, and you've got all the trading pockets, and these guys are all over me hunting for a contact lens that doesn't exist. So Kenny was the first one to step back and take a breath, and he's looking at me. I'm on the top step, and he's looking up at me, and I'm looking down at him eye to eye, and he suddenly realizes, he goes, oh. And so
because you're wearing the glasses.
I'm wearing the glasses. I never wore contacts. And he's standing there just busting a gut. And I'm like, so we just let everybody continue. Now I got the Navy SEALs trying to rescue a contact lens that never existed. And this went on for quite a while until I think it was Scott Rabin was the second one to stop and notice that Kenny Weitzman was laughing. And he goes, no. And he takes him by the hand and he pulls him behind him. Now the two of them are looking at me, and there's like 3 or 4 left.
To let the other guys keep going. Right?
Yes. And they're all just letting it go, and I'm letting it go. And I'm standing there wearing glasses like, how the hell did this even happen? And it went on for a long, long time. And then finally, it was the last one. They're all one by one, and everybody in the pit is cracking up because it's just a fiasco. But they're all talking about it, and there's still one guy looking for a contact lens, and I'm not moving. And that's one of the things that I miss about the trading floor is the stupid things that happen that you just let life go. You're improvising and stuff, and it's just, what else are we going to do today?
Yeah, so I've covered this with a bunch of floor guys on the podcast. Mm-hmm. When you're in an environment like the trading floor, and nobody really knows what it's like unless you're there. Every job has a degree of pressure to it. Even a runner, you're taking a piece of paper into a pit. You got to know where to take that order to, right? And it could be a marketer like buy 50 pork bellies, right? And you take it to the live cattle pit and they don't look at it, and somebody buys 50 live cattle at the market. That could be extremely costly, right? So there's pressure at every level. And then of course the energy level when the shit's hitting the fan in the markets, like it's mayhem, right? So what that winds up doing is you have all these people crushed into a tight space under high pressure, and it brings out the best and worst in people. But then it also tempers you. You become different. Your wiring becomes different. You become a combat veteran, so to speak. So in the downtime, you either develop, while you're there, you either develop
the
thick skin or it, like the jungle, it will consume you, right? So everybody becomes a ball buster. And if you don't keep up with the trend line of getting more wisdom as a ball buster, they'll keep picking on you and to try and break you. It's just how we were. So in those downtimes, the most ridiculous things would happen while we're all trying to edge up each other on ball busting, right? And one of my stories is, Andy stood behind me, and this is when we had headsets on, right? So to my right was a Cubs fan. It was either Larry Nero or John Kirstein, whatever. And to the left was Jim Shortall, who was a great ball player, and I believe he played for the Sox Farm League. So they're bitching at each other about Cubs versus Sox, right? So I whisper to Andy in the headset, I go, watch this. Now, Andy's not a sports fan, and I'm not a sports fan, okay? So I go, you know what? I think Sammy Sosa could kick Frank Thomas's ass in a real fight. And then these two guys are like, what? Frank Thomas is this big? And I'm like, hey, man, Sammy Sosa's all muscle. That's all. And these guys were actually arguing about who would be tougher in a fight. And I just did that to round.
Yeah, you did. You were an instigator.
Yeah, we're going to do this. I'm going to have a panel of floor guys, and we're going to tell these crazy ass stories. People just wouldn't believe them.
No.
So, all right. So that was a good side street we took, and we'll get back into that too. So take me through now the progression of your career on the floor.
We were in the old building when we were above the train station.
Okay. So that wasn't in, I never was in it. There's a single story.
Yes.
Okay. So was it like that?
And
kind of looked like the John Hancock building on the outside, but it was one level, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
When I started, they didn't even have an S&P pit. So that's when the S&Ps had a 500-point limit. So there was a hiring freeze because it was just getting way overcrowded.
The floor was too many bodies, right?
Yes. At the time, I started a charting business, so I was keeping charts for brokers, and that's when it was quite a bit more effective. And I made a ton of money doing that because I had a lot of brokers.
Now, are you watching the markets and hand charting everything?
Yes.
Oh, what kind
They
of
didn't
charts?
have-
Like
they didn't have-
candlesticks or what? What do you remember?
I had the, is it Barron's? What was the charting book? Commodity Perspective. And you could buy them, and every week they'd be updated. But then during the week, you'd update whatever markets you were watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching everything. But I had the Wall Street Journal. We didn't have the charting programs that we do now, so it was a little slower. But there was all these guys that were technicians like me at the time, and it was effective. You could follow the charts. It's not like they were at the bottom of a sinking ship back then. We had the DC pit. Were you around when there was oranges? They called them oranges.
Mm-hmm.
The string of currency pits were like, they were all in a row and stuff. And it was very crowded. And, like there wasn't enough room for any, they had a hiring freeze, no more. And they were building the 30 South Wacker, right? It was still under construction, which I was a liaison to those people there for the communications boards, because I sat on the, So one time there was some visitors that were on the floor of the old building, and there was a rumor of the Japanese ambassador assassination, and the markets went crazy. And there was a guy in a suit and a bunch of ladies and, some escort and stuff, and the runners were tripping over him. And I'm charting and stuff, and there's another guy charting next to me, facing the currencies. And I yelled, and I said, "You guys, can't you see that there are people falling down they were tripping, trying to get around him?" I said, "You're just in the way right now." And the guy waved and he said, okay. And he scooted everybody away, all fatherly and stuff like that. And the guy next to me says, "You should be careful who you yell at." And I go, "Why? Is that somebody important?" He goes, "That's presidential candidate Senator John Glenn."
Holy crap.
So later I moved to London, and then I came back from London, and John Glenn comes back for a tour, and he's in the Eurodollars. And I said, "Hey, Johnny, do you remember me?" And he goes, "Swiss francs, 1990.
He remembered you.
He did, John Glenn. And I got a picture of him.
You told him to get the hell out of here. Hilarious. That's an awesome story.
That place.
So let me just do a little sidebar with this. President Bush came on the floor.
Yeah.
And, I was doing outrays at the time. So I got to the floor at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And Secret Service was, every drawer had to be open. Everything had to be checked. And then, Bush comes on the floor, and we're all hooting and hollering and stuff. And he's got his entourage around him, right? Yeah. So back then, I worked for Discount, and Discount was on the ground level. It was floor level where the president's walking. And I don't know if you remember Rupert Sturgis.
Yes.
Yeah, Rupert was awesome. But, Rupert was kind of fidgety by nature, and stuff. And he would always keep his hands in his pockets.
Yes.
Bush and entourage are coming right in front of him. And there were 2 men in front of Bush. One guy, he looked at everybody in the eyes like this. And then one guy didn't look above anybody's waist. He was like this. So they were scanning the crowd, and Rupert pulled his hand out of his pocket. And by the way, the guy who was looking down, we could see in his coat, he had a submachine gun hanging from his. So Rupert pulled his hand out of his pocket to shake the president's hand, and one of those 2 guys grabbed his wrist, like tink, like that. But I'll never forget that. What a colossal undertaking. They're checking ceiling tiles and all that stuff but it was cool. We had a lot of famous people come on.
Yeah, we did.
Remember Jackie Bang came on, the newscaster? Yeah. She was in the catwalk, and we all started
Leslie
cheering.
Henner.
Jackie.
Yes, yeah. And Leslie Henner. Do you remember?
No.
Leslie.
Who's Leslie Henner?
She was the redhead in Taxi, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, Mary Lou Henner. Is it Mary Lou Henner?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah, it could
be.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Leslie Henner. I said Leslie Henner. That's the traitor that stood in front of me.
There you go.
Oh my God,
just
what an
made her a
idiot.
star.
Oh, I'm so silly. But I mean, like when you get around the celebrities and stuff like that, because I really don't react, because I'm around them all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, don't ask for autographs and get pictures taken and stuff like that. So that's why I get sent around a lot to like celebrity things, and I've got 1,000 of those stories, but one of them is just hysterical. And when I moved back to London, my friend lived in New York. We were in school together separately. I think she was dating somebody that I knew that, was working with. And we got together and she goes, why don't you come on down to New York? I'll send you a limo. I'm a assistant director to Mike Nichols, who does Meryl Streep's, Kramer versus Kramer, Sophie's Choice, Mike Nichols and his wife. And
What is he, a producer?
No, he's a director.
Director, okay.
Movie and theater.
Gotcha.
She goes, come on out for the opening of Hurly Burly. And John Hurt's in it, or William Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Meg Tilly. And it's the opening night on Broadway. She goes, come on out, I'll send you a limo. And we'll have a good time. You come to the opening of Hurly Burly and the party afterwards, and we'll just have a good time in Manhattan. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get out there, and she's in the limo, and we start riding back. She goes, I gotta get, I need a favor. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what's up? She goes, you got to sit with Mike Nichols and his wife, because they sit in the center of the theater, and I know you won't burst out in laughter and be a dick, Sit with him, because he likes to surround himself like a buffer so that he can hear the whole theater, the reaction, and judge. And it's the opening night of Hurly Burly on Broadway. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, no problem. And she goes, there's one other thing you got to do. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, you got to escort Meryl Streep. And I'm like, okay. She goes, because I know you'll just be, nothing. And I'm like, right. So, me, I'm always thinking in cartoons anyway. So we get to the opening of Hurly Burly. Now, Meryl Streep has got the same assignment I've got, where she's not supposed to be reacting so he can hear the long throw. But she is an actress. And she's now acting like she's struggling not to laugh. So she's laughing through her nose like this and stuff like that. So she's saying to Mike Nichols, I just can't resist, this, I can't contain myself and stuff, because I'm Meryl Streep and I can do this sort of thing. But me, I'm sitting next to, so it's me, Meryl Streep, Mike Nichols, and his wife. And I always wear scuba watches, always. And when somebody's snoring in the cartoons and the blankets come up and then they go back down and they come back up and then they go back down. Well, now I'm thinking, like with her laughing like that, I'm picturing my watch going up. So now I'm having trouble not laughing because I'm laughing at something completely different. After the play, we went to, it was like a basement, a hidden cast party. And there's Paul Simon and there's Neil Simon, who I had breakfast with. Neil Simon's wife made me breakfast in London one time. That's a whole nother story, but that's fun. Just the fun stuff that happens, Frank. Just the fun stuff. And there's Jagger and there's Bowie. And, it was one of the weekends or the anniversary of George Harrison. So Bowie had all these bodyguards, and it was a lot of drama and ice sculptures and and Paul Simon and just everybody was there, and so we're at this banquet, the round banquet tables with the white tablecloth and stuff, and we're all in tuxedos and dressed up, and I'm sitting with the lighting crew and the sound guys and my friend Maria, who's the co-director or the director's assistant or whatever it was, and I'm talking to a guy on the edge of this table, and there's like getting toward the end, like a corridor. And the big old lady purses that's like a big giant suitcase and they hang them on their arms and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like the older ladies, they got the pearls and the yellow dress and stuff. And they're like, darling, right? Okay, so the guy that I'm talking to leans past me and he says, oh, look, there's Liza Minnelli. And I go, where? And I turn around, and just as I turned around, she's waving to somebody, and that big old purse hits me right in the face. And I fall out of the chair, pretending like I'm knocked out with like a dead deer on the hood of a Chevy, with my tongue. And I'm in a tuxedo, and the whole table is just cracking up. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but she just kept going and stuff. And I pretended like I'm knocked out. Like, dude.
She didn't even know.
I don't think she knew or she didn't care. I don't know. But I mean, just like, I met Liza Minnelli once. Thwap!
Hilarious.
I know, but I mean, like those guys were cracking up. You go, you got to invite him out again.
That's cool stuff. I don't get starstruck either.
No.
And I don't, I haven't seen a lot of people like you, but one of my things is I used to work out at Chicago Health Club on Cumberland and Foster by O'Hare. So that's where near Rosemont, and they would have a lot of times the professional wrestling would be in town.
Yeah.
And so I'm working out with my buddy Mike, and I just got done with a set of bench, and I sat up, and everybody was frozen. Everybody in the gym was looking to the singular point, and it was Hulk Hogan in his prime. And he was standing right in the doorway just checking out the gym because he was in town for wrestling. Boom, I made a beeline right for him. I shook his hand. I'm like, hey, Hulkster, you want to join us for a bench workout? He's like, no, dude, just come to check it out. But they're just people.
They're just people.
What I mean?
Yeah.
I did see Michael Jordan in person one time. It was me and RJ and Andy, and we were entertaining some of our customers at
Discount
Gibson's.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay, so it was a Friday. We got there at 3:00. We were right in the corners table in the bar, which is the best table. You could see all of Rush Street. And we were going hours and hours. We're eating and drinking. And then now it's nighttime. And the maitre d' comes up to us and he says, I have a favor to ask. If you could move over to the table next to you. We have a customer who's one of our best customers, and this is his table. I'll send you 2 bottles of wine from our reserve list.
Very cool.
We're like, yeah, sure. So we look up, and there's the king himself, Michael Jordan, and his entourage. Awesome. And that guy, at that time, the Bulls were winning championships. He did have an aura around him.
Yes.
And I was looking at him, I go, that is the most famous person on planet Earth right now. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody has more fame than him. So
one person more.
At that time?
Yes.
Who?
Cindy Alonso, who used to be, she'd stalk him on the stadium and grab his ass right before he's leaving.
Cindy Lorenzo.
Yes. She was more famous than Michael Jordan. She's the girl that used to grab his ass all the time.
Oh, my God. That is so funny you mentioned her. So I'll finish the story about Jordan, and then I'll tell you one about Cindy Lorenzo.
All right, go on.
We moved, and he came with his entourage.
She sat next to him at the table?
He sat at the table we were at.
Right.
We moved to the table next. So he came in with his entourage, and then we asked the maitre d', can you take a menu and get an autograph for us? And he's like, no, we don't do that.
No.
But he goes, if you want to try it, I'll give you a menu.
Right.
You could try it. He's a try. So Andy got up and he walked, over to the table, and Michael was protected. Right. So this guy did one of these to Andy, gave him the stiff arm. He's like, hey, we moved our table over here. We had this table, can you have Michael sign this for my son? And he's like, no. That was our story about Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even sign an autograph.
No, he's got to be, they just get flooded with people.
Yeah, and then Cindy Lorenzo now, the most tyrannical little tornado of an out-trade clerk ever.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was learning out-trade, she just terrorized me.
Yeah.
And about 6 months went by, and, I got my out-trade legs. I knew what I was doing. And so I had to talk to her about something, and she did one of her, what the fuck, to me, right? And I knew better at this time. So she turned around to walk away, and I goosed her. I grabbed her butt cheek, right? And then she kind of jumped, and she turned to me, and then she smiled.
Yes.
That was it. We had a good relationship after that. Yeah. Yeah, she was, man, they could write a whole book on her, man.
There's a lot of people down there that could write a book out.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we now in this story? You would old trading floor.
We bounced around. So the old trading floor. Oh, we got to the new trading floor, and RJ moved over in the currencies with Dave Westcott, and then there was the Larsons.
Dave and Ernie, or
not Ernie yet.
Not Ernie yet.
Not for a long while,
Okay,
Ernie. Now we're talking about day one of the new Merc.
Okay.
They go, we want you to clerk back there. And there was 2 clerks.
Oh, Dave and RJ wanted you to clerk, or?
RJ brought me over, but he was teaming up with Westcott, and I didn't know him that well at all. And then
if you guys out there, floor people, it's RJ Abrams and Dave
Westcott. Yeah.
Yep.
So then there was the other one, and I want to say it might have been Rick Duran.
Makes sense. Yep, because he was a big third and fourth guy.
This is before we even were separated, before the back months were even out.
Okay.
We had like the 4 months expiring. There was never even a second year yet.
Yeah, gotcha.
But there were only 2 clerks for all of that side. It was one side only at that time. It was me and Mike Walsh.
Wow.
And we would get, as it developed, and there was now 2 years and the red packs and stuff like that, we were still just the only 2. And there's another story, but I'm not going to tell it. But Mike and I were like mortal enemies. But we never hurt each other. We never did anything to embarrass the other person. Like he'd go, get your guy, and make it like, oh, I'm the hero here because I pulled your guy, so you should give me the next order and stuff like this. So there was all this mortal enemy shit between us, but we always respected each other, which I was surprised because I thought he was, I just have a lot of respect for him, and we're still in contact with each other. We went a long time without each other, and he's living on, I shouldn't tell people where they live, but he's just, he went to Princeton and stuff, and his stories, he's got stories. So does Ryan McGuire.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Mike to do this. After Dorothy passed away,
yeah,
Mike and I we're friends on Facebook, and I didn't really know him on the floor. He worked with Vince Sadler, Iron, who was one of my dear friends.
Yeah.
Never really talked to Mike. And I always thought he was just a vile human being.
Yeah.
The way
he's got an
growly,
aura.
Grumbly,
yeah,
like a roll of barbed wire. But I didn't know him.
Right.
And then now in recent years, he's surfaced in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We've had unbelievable conversations. He lost his wife too.
Mm-hmm.
What an amazing human being he is.
Mm-hmm.
So another shout out to one of our sponsors, Nevis Nutrition, which is a vitamin and supplement shop in Lamont. Owner Joe Bosco, dear friend of mine. Joe is super knowledgeable in nutrition, extremely knowledgeable in fitness. All the top athletes, weightlifters, bodybuilders, they go over there. He's really instrumental in help coaching our young athletes too. He's located in Lamont. I'll put the address in the description as well. It's interesting. You guys, though, are both what I would consider intellects. Okay, you have the music and you're scholastic. He's
I'm just a piano player.
Yeah, right. And he's a super smart guy. Went to Princeton. So here you are, like you're like you say, mortal enemies, but you're competitors, and you're well armed. You're well armed with intellect, management of pressure, all of that stuff. Man, I would have loved to seen some footage of that in the day if they had that. You and him standing up there, right?
Yeah, I can still see it, because like I said, when you told me to do this, I wrote down all these stories. I told you.
I said, you're going to do this.
Yeah, well, you weren't the only one. There's Bill Strubing. Andy cracked me up the last party we had. The last of your parties. He put, you had him mixing the pasta, the pasta, and he comes out with a noodle and he goes, Frank, and you're coming out here, and he's leaving the kitchen. He goes, Frank, find out if this is done yet. And I said to him, I go, I'll try it. He goes, you're not Italian. Respect. He goes, I go, Frank, because I was going to I told you that he did that. And before I even got a chance to, he goes, he'll tell you the same thing.
Well,
you're not Italian.
Funny is I just told him that right before that.
Oh, did you?
The ball bus. I go, I'll make sure I try the noodle before we dump it.
Right.
And he goes, well, I could try to go, well, you're not Italian. So you walk by and you go, well, you're not Italian.
You're not Italian.
Regurgitating what I say.
He must have been dying too, just saying that, God, he's so cute. He's such a good guy.
He was one of only a few people I would have in a foxhole with me.
You said that many times.
I would give my life for him without question. He's one of my main guys.
He's got a great marriage too with, she's great. Sharon?
Yeah. They met and were married in a very short time. Like, I think it was just a couple of months.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was out after a drinking night in high school, and he went to Denny's for, a Grand Slam breakfast, and she was the server. And they move right into it.
Oh my God, that's great.
They're awesome people.
So I wanted to go into the pit, and there was some resistance. I'm sure it was because I was so good as a clerk. That's just command clerking in the back months as it expanded and stuff. And there's another story, like I said, that I don't want to talk about with bankers. Bankers wanted me to up with Mike. Who ran bankers? Mike
Crane.
He wanted me to be partners with Mike Crane, but I had a different plan. And that was probably, I wish I had better mentors or things explained to me a little bit better, like where this could lead to. Mark, come here. And that's what I was missing. Plus, there was other people that wanted to control me because I was making everybody else so much money, So I wanted to get a seat and get into the pit and make my fortune. That's what I was doing. Well, what are you guys dragging your feet for? And there's backstory to this between Westcott and RJ and stuff like that. But at the time, they came up with that new rule that you were talking about with Beister, where you had to rent for a year, or you had to do something.
You could only lease for a year, and then if you didn't buy
you had to buy.
Yeah,
or wait.
Yeah, if you didn't buy it, then you had to leave.
Simultaneously, I was asked to go set up the arbitrage operations between the life market, because the bank's deregulated. So we're talking about March of 86. And I'm like, yeah, because I'll go over there, have my seat, and then come back and say, I've had a seat for this year. So now that rule is done. And then I'd also do something that I've always wanted to do, is go out of the country into Europe and stuff, because I've been all over the United States. I come from a big traveling family, camping and stuff like that, World War II.
Tell the people what the life is.
The London International Financial Futures Exchange is in the Bank District of London, which is tiny. And the Bank of England is across the street or right down the way. And all the British banks, Barclays, Dezoit, Wed, and all the Forex banks are there. And in Europe, that they would trade Forex with England, which leads to even more stories and stuff like that. But I ended up going, and while I was on my flight over, the person sending me and the destination got into a fight, big one, and it ended. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? So the destination company, they took a liking to me. Very nice people, and I'm an American, so there can be some heavy prejudices between the Brits and the Americans. They thought I was a spoon, a silver spoon. The Cockney rhymes and stuff. Oh, you're just a spoon, and I'm like, no, I'm a piano player. It's like you couldn't get more down to earth than me. But I wasn't polished at all. I wasn't like they all wear, slacks, I go, I'm trying to be nice. I go, that guy's got nice suspenders. You bloody septic, suspenders are what ladies wear to hold up their nylons. Those are braces. And, you just run into problem after a problem after problem with them. But I just stayed and took, it took about a year to get anglicized. What they call it, anglicized. There were some expatriates there that, kind of took me under their wing and stuff like that.
We are two cultures separated by a common language.
Yeah, we are. On my resume, I say I speak two languages, English and Americanese.
I was on the London line, so my first phone clerk job. So my voice was being broadcast into an office in London. It's the squawk box, right? So they would push the buttons and put in their orders. And they'd make fun of me all the time. You said, slacks. I said pants.
Right.
They laughed their ass off.
Oh, yeah.
No, pants are underwear, asshole. These are trousers,
yes.
right? So the whole thing is different over there.
Right. One thing led to another, and I ended up at Shearson.
Out there or?
In London.
Okay.
I got a page. We didn't even have cell phones back then. It was pagers and stuff. And they didn't even have Windows at the time. The computer, they had DOS. And so all my work was done on DOS. Everything at Sergeant Lundy was Fortran and COBOL. They didn't even have DOS then. There was no personal computers. And I got a page, and I got to the desk, and they said New York called, and they asked for you specifically. I'm like, who? We don't really know. But they said, here's this order to fill. And it was a lot. It was a spread order north of 60,000.
Holy shit.
And at that time, 100 lot was exciting for the pit. And this is gilt-edged bonds. They said, you're not held. And you know what held is. And for those that know, in an auction, you could. It doesn't matter if the market slips. We don't care. Get as many as you can. Take your time. Get as many as you can today. And, you're not held. Go. I'm like, okay. So we discussed a strategy. And at that time, you could bring like 2 or 3 other brokers in that are not eligible to trade. But they were just going to count as it goes and stuff. So I walked into the pit, an American in England, right? And I was at the pit, and I said, excuse me, may I have your attention, please? And they're like, oh, an American, and stuff like that. And I said, I have a size order. And, we're not supposed to disclose, and you're not supposed to sandbag. If you have, for people that don't watch, you're not supposed to sandbag and hold back the amount that you've got. You're supposed to put them all on the market. But that's what caused a cardiac arrest, I'm sure. So I said to them, I said, may I have your attention, please? And they all looked at me, and I said, I have a size order. Some of you are going to get hurt. I apologize in advance. 5,000 at 3. And they're like, God, and so the whole place started, it was an instant like electric shock to everybody.
What a noble thing you said, though, because
this is because Yeah, but I'm in England. They didn't know how much I had. And one of the big guys, we call him the Royal Bank of, and his name.
Yeah, gotcha. He's a all size trader.
How many have you got? I go. And he goes, a lot. I go, and a lot. So he's like, okay. And so people start to pick at it. They're picking at the order, and like they're doing 50, 25, and stuff like that. And I'm writing them up and I'm handing them to the clerks, and they're keeping track and they're running them back and forth and double checking the count. And it's game on, And I'm at 3, and I just keep writing the orders, 150, 150, and then it gets more exciting and they go on 500, and I've got, like 2,000 left. And I go 5,000 at 3. And they're like, how many have you got? I go, a lot. And they go, okay, so it keeps going. It's like all day sucker, all day, this on and on like this. And I keep reloading thousands, 5,000, 5,000. And they keep picking me off and they're like, God, are you ever going to be done? And I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden, Nat West came in and they go, how many have you got left? I go, 4,683. Buy them. 3 on 20,000. So 20,000 at 3. And they're like, God, and it just went on like that. And then but when I did that, by this time, the Associated Press was in the gallery taking pictures. And they took a picture of me doing this. So I look like Michael Jordan. We were talking about, that thing when he's got his arms spread out. I'm like, salt. And this is now in a book called The City Slickers. And it was on the side of the double-decker buses. You're going to be bloody septic, because I'm an American and I'm advertising the life market on the double-decker buses and stuff. So I did get them all that day. And then they all have nicknames. You know that from the Squawk Box, And Spider comes up to me and he goes, I hate you. And I go, I know. And you're all candid and stuff like that. And he goes, you came out and you said outright, some of you are going to get hurt. And I did. I got hurt. And he said, but it was pure class that you said that up front. So I can't hold it against you. And now I like you.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
But you get these great stories like that they're just epic. You don't know they're going to unfold that way or why, I don't even know who placed the order, but they asked for me specifically. I don't know because I don't know why. But adventures and wonders.
That's exciting stuff.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. I told a story to Norm Beister about a Norm Beister story about how the market was breaking off of a number.
I remember this.
And, two of the biggest locals are like, 5 offer. Norm goes, buy 5,000.
Right.
Like, no, 500.
Yeah.
He slam dunked at two of the biggest locals in the pit. And he said in that story, he goes, I wasn't trying to be a dick. Yeah. He goes, I had to buy him.
Right.
He goes, a lot of times, like that people was the bottom, right? He goes, people don't understand. This is the modesty of Norm Beister.
Yeah.
I'm unwinding a losing position.
Right.
They think I'm a genius because I held the market at the bottom. I needed those to get out of a losing trade, right? So,
I no longer want the cheese. I just want out of the trap.
What an amazing guy.
There's a ton of amazing people that and I got into some big trades that, they're intimidating. When you get that big of when you get into something that big, it can be intimidating. And you're right. You just have to shut the nerves off. Same thing with being a musician. It's like you just have to, you're playing in front of a lot of people.
So did your musical experience in dealing with large venues that can actually add on pressure, did that help you on the floor? Did you have a little bit of temperament about it already or no?
No, I don't think it was the music or, the stage fright and stuff. That from early on, I just turned that shit off. It's like no stage fright. You turn that, like theater people and musicians or performers, they turn that nervous energy into something productive and they eat it and then they use it in a positive manner and stuff. I don't think that I learned that along the way. I think that I learned that from my next door neighbors that I was just talking about, Mickey and Dave, and the neighborhood that I grew up in. Because if we were talking about playing sports and the challenges and stuff, football and baseball and stuff like that. If you're in Little League and you're in that environment where it's real competitive, but then afterwards you get out there and you're with your buddies and you're like, that was really awesome. And, you really played well. And I'm like with this kicker that missed that field goal that lost that game. Who was that? Troop?
I'm not a sports guy. You would know better than me. So
there was good sportsmanship. And I think the good sportsmanship once you get the good sportsmanship after whatever happened, you know that the good sportsmanship is on the other side of this. So you ignore it. You ignore the pressure, and you throw that last bucket, or whatever you do, you just do it because you know that the good sportsmanship's on the other side of it, and that gets you through. In the Bible, this too shall pass.
We're going to get into that as well. You had this big order. You worked for Shearson. Pick up the story, like where the things you did, where you went. I know you did work with the Mendes Group for a time, yes?
Or yeah,
I remember correctly.
Back to London. Originally, when I was setting that up, it came time to where I was going to get my work permit because I went there without a work visa. So I had to go to another country and get go to the American consulate and get a work permit and then come back in to get leaves to stamp so you can be legal. And I have 2 sisters born April 1st, different years. So I become the king of prank. And I called my sister, Lorraine. I said, I don't know, where I'm going to be, like if I'm on flight or if I'm going to be in Paris and stuff. But, we've decided, she goes, oh, what do you, well, we've decided that this business is going to work, that we're going to be viable and stuff. So I have to leave and get my work permit at another embassy. So I'm going to go to Paris. And I just wanted to wish you happy birthday. And she goes, what happens if you don't get it? And I go, well, we've been here kind of illegally. You're supposed to have it at the onset. And I go, but I'll just get bounced out of England or, like I'll go to another country or maybe come home and, work it out and stuff like that. But it'll be all right. She goes, oh, it sounds dangerous. I'm like, oh, no, I got you for the April 1st, right? And I go, well, it should be okay, and stuff. So then April 1st rolls around and I call her at like 4:00 in the morning. She's in Northville, Michigan, like in horse country, where the Northville Downs horses. Mm-hmm. And so all the streets are dirt roads and stuff, but nice houses and horse country. And I pretend I'm a French operator. Hello, Monsieur, we have a collect call from Monsieur Hebert. And she goes, yes, I'll take it. But it's 4:00 in the morning. She's like, not even, I go, Lorraine, this has gone horribly wrong. I'm being held prisoner in Charles de Gaulle airport security, and they're not being nice. Here's what I need you to do. And I hung up on her.
What an asshole.
I know. But they could see him coming and stuff like that. So I waited a good 15, 20 minutes and I called back. Hello, we have a collect call from Monsieur Hebert. Yes, I'll accept the charges. And I go, Lorraine, don't hang up on me again. And so I'm like, real mad. And she goes, I know, I just tortured her. It was just great. And then I did it again. When I hung up on her again. And now I waited a little bit longer. And I go, hello, yes, I'll accept the charges. Like, Lorraine, don't hang up on me again. They're not going to give me another opportunity to call. They said so. Now this is what I need you to do. And then all of a sudden somebody started pounding on her door and she's screaming, Joe, screaming for her husband and stuff. She goes, oh, somebody's pounding on the door. I can't hear you. I go, don't answer the door. Don't answer the door. It was me. I flew home and pranked her on her fucking porch.
That's the best one ever.
She was
Don't open the door.
She came flying out. She was going to strangle me, but I'm running down this dirt road and stuff, and everybody's coming out with their coffee and walking their dogs and stuff, and I'm, hello, I'm going to kill you. She's in her nightgown. It was funny as hell.
I'd block you. I'm never answering a call from my brother on April 1st ever again. Fun.
But I ended up getting that, the place that I stayed in Paris was like staggered, and it was right across the river from Notre Dame Cathedral.
Wow.
So I had the house in London, and then I rented that from time to time. So that was my place in Paris, and I learned to cook there a lot because I would go to the restaurants, and I knew enough to, do the money things and where's the washroom and, order food and be polite, and people, in Europe, by that time, they started thinking I was Canadian rather than American. No, I'm American. Oh, really? I wouldn't have thought so. And, I would go to the restaurants and they say, what do you want? I go, whatever you tell me to get. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, just bring me whatever you want me to show me. And they go, well, how do you want your steak or how do you want it cooked? I go, however you want. And then I'd start asking them, I go, how did you do this? How did you do that? And the waitress would get the chef and come back out and he'd go, come on in. And they taught me to cook. And that's how I learned. And that was my first meal that I ever made for my former wife was veal scallopini and white wine spinach sauce, like Art Deco and stuff. But I learned it in Paris. So it's fun. Just life, we live. So then I started trading. There was more to the London stuff, but then I started trading American markets again. And it came time for me to go back It was longer because of a lady. It was longer than than the year that would satisfy that rule. And toward the end of going back, of my living in London, I was back and forth to Chicago so frequently. In London, I jumped into a British Leyland taxi, and the Cockney driver, "Where to, mate?" I go, "The airport." "Which one?" "O'Hare." "How much money have you got?" So that was the end of that. And then I came back and I worked for Mendez for a while, and then fought my way into another situation where I got my seat and started filling and stuff. And then there's a chapter that I don't talk about. And then another chapter after that I don't talk about. And then that was my leaving the floor.
I learned on the trading floor that, I used to watch new people come in. A lot of guys from the South Side.
Green.
There was a lot of South Siders, right? And they, usually people came where they came in as full of favors and, whatever, my friend's son, blah, blah, blah. So these guys would come in and they'd be, they'd look around like we looked around when we first came on the floor, like, what the hell is going on, right? And I would watch them go from, being this deer in the headlights guy running cards and whatever, and the trade checking and the clerking, and then getting badged up, and then becoming a big trader and making tons of money. Many times I've watched that evolution, and I would see the personality change from that deer in the headlights to massive ego, super eccentric, condescension.
And they think they're business people.
I've concluded that money brings out the best and worst in people, and the worst is way worse than the good is good. And money is corrupting. It's the ultimate corrupter. And a lot of people,
The politicians.
brought out their ugly side. So I'm kind of happy in a way. I mean, I have regrets in life, and one of them is that I never jumped off that top step from being a broker because I thought being a trader is the purest form. It's you against the world, and you really don't have anyone to account to except yourself, and you can get as big as you want, and you have more freedom to come and go. Whereas a broker, you're tied in your spot. You got to be there. I mean, I would take vacations, and one of my partners would go up and stand in my spot and cover for me. And I had one time I had 4 partners. I had Brett, RJ, Tony, and Zim.
Brett Burkholder?
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Oh, Brett's awesome. So,
I didn't know Jeff very well, but I would like to have.
I knew Jeff very well. Great guy. Well, he was a great basketball player, but
he's a coach.
Well, he retired, but he was he's a legend as a coach. I was just getting to that point.
Isn't that fabulous?
One of the things, and no disrespect to my partners, but when there's 4 brokers together and you're working on the same team and it gets busy and the clerks are turning in to give an order, there's always going to be one guy that's not as busy as the other guys, and a good clerk will know who to give that order to because one guy might be in the middle of a big order and kind of overwhelmed. So you have outlets, right? That's the power of having 4 guys on the same team together.
Yeah.
Well, when the pit expanded, I moved over here by myself. RJ took my spot. And then so I became a broker that didn't have an outlet. Everything funneled into me. I didn't have a partner next to me to take off. Right. So I learned how to do it all myself. And so when I would go on vacation, one of my partners would come over and stand in my spot. Well, they weren't used to being the singular funnel. And so they would do what they would do. They were all good brokers. But my customers would say when I came back, don't ever let RJ be up there again. Then it would be Zim. No, don't ever. So I didn't have anybody left
Zim's a good guy too.
To take my place. And we were splitting up all the brokerage evenly, which I thought was a nice arrangement. But it got to the point where they were all rotating weeks off every month, the 4 of them, because
they could.
And more business was coming to me than the split we had. Like we were 5 guys, 20% to each guy after expenses. Got to the point where I was doing almost 50% of all the group's business because our customers would start to split stuff up. They'd go, Plum sell 500, RJ sell 500, and then we would be competing against each other, which I didn't mind.
Right.
You know, they didn't like it, but I didn't mind, and got to the point where, hey, if a customer like, Base or whatever, we'll just use Pump because he does a little better job executing. We'll give it all to him. So the business shifted over to me. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where like, fuck, I can't take a vacation. I'm doing 50% of the business, but only getting 20% of the pay. Mm-hmm. So, I asked RJ permission to leave. And to his credit, he said, you should have done this a long time ago. So then we were actually competing with each other.
He's always treated me fairly, and he was a good mentor. I wish there was some other mentoring in my life that, because, you're wiser. And I'm like, I can mentor people now. My current position, like, people go to the manager and stuff like that, but they come to me on the side for the real coaching. And it's funny too, because I'll take their pain. Sometimes people get, they're upset. They get a disgruntled client and stuff like that. And I try to neutralize it by saying something, humorous and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Sometimes I just want to jump out the window, but I live on the first floor and there are shrubs. So, it's like, it's fun to give the skills away now that I've learned, because it's time to give back now. I don't ever really feel like I was super successful because there was a couple of things that happened that derailed me. So, I wish I was left alone and didn't have these things visited upon me and my family and stuff, because it happens.
We don't have to talk about it, but I do want to mention a little bit. You had some difficulties with, a relationship and children custody and stuff like that. Was that your hardest time in your life?
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
And everybody that was there at the time, how did you survive it?
I just wanted to say this.
If it weren't for God would come to my bedroom and grab me by the neck and drag me out. I'm not done with you yet, and that's, if your love is that strong for somebody else and you're just going to survive it until the time is right, that's the way it is. You're just going to take everything they throw at you to keep everybody else safe. Mm-hmm. If you're going to take all the pain yourself, take it, because that's what we do as men. That's what we do as parents.
Amen to that.
Have at it. If you're going to give me a Braveheart, go ahead.
Yeah. And I just wanted to touch on this because it applied to me, and it actually applies to to one of my sons too, because he's going through some nasty stuff with custody. My mother was a wild child. She was number 9 of 10, all 8 boys and 2 girls. She got kicked out of the house when she was 13 by her Sicilian father. She was just a wild child, and she was a wild adult. Met my dad. They got married. They had me. He took off, and she tried to keep her shit together, but she didn't. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm being raised by, a single mom with a big family. Thank God for me, because
you said some uncles.
My uncles and my Aunt Rose, my grandparents. I grew up like a prince. Yeah, that's it. Yep. My mother never ever said a bad word about my dad ever. Mm-hmm. And when I would ask about him, she would just say the same thing over and over again. And it was very simple. She said, your dad's a very nice man, and hopefully someday you'll get to meet him. That's all she ever said.
Yeah.
And I was lucky because I was not wanting for a father, because I had all this male influence with my 7 uncles and my godfather. And female influence. I mean, I was basically raised by my grandma and Aunt Rose, 2 women who adored the ground I walked on. I could do no wrong, so I had the motherly, maternal love, and I had all these male mentors kicking my ass, teaching me work ethic, making sure I did good in school, and being the example of somebody that I hope I'm in their shadow at least. Mm-hmm. So, and I've seen too many times where couples are splitting up and they start to leverage their opinions of the person by, trying to infect the children. And it's such a terrible thing to do. And I just wanted to bring that up to commend my mom for not doing that. And she could have, So you leave the floor, you're still a musician. Even during the dark times, were you still playing, or were you effed up, or you weren't doing so much of it? So
I was at the bank. I was at my bank with my business accounts at a boardroom with the managers and, the big shots at the bank, because you know me. I had good businesses going, a lot of them, and I suddenly said, I should just come to work here because I would be inside the compliance, And they said, yeah, you should. So we were going to make me a financial advisor, but you had to start as a private, a licensed banker. And, sometimes you can just get I went through a period where it was just the book of Job, where I was making tons of money. I was like ninth in the district and stuff like that. But I didn't get where I go, well, look, we agreed that I would be at this place, but they were transferring me around. And some of it was because I was silver haired. So they would put me in older neighborhoods where the old money was because the clients would respect me, and they did. And I did a lot. I did a lot for a lot of survivors of the Nazi prison camps because the Germans would make them notarized and sign, I'm still alive, keep my pension coming. But the form was so bad that the bankers, this cable's going to need to be replaced. The bankers would follow that, and it would cut them off for their pensions because they made a mistake on this complex form. Well, they all figured in Skokie that I was the guy who wouldn't let that happen, So they're like, come to this guy. So I had all this old money and all the new money and everything coming in, and I was doing business in Israel and, Merrill Lynch, like I would pull in business from Merrill Lynch because I was so good, and I won private client, national MVP and stuff like that. But then there's some corrupt people that were just coming in and stealing clients. And, they go, oh, he's busy, I'll help you. Or I want to get tagged on that because I said hi to him on Thursday, and stuff like that. We're going to jump off that too, because once you get into that where people are playing those kind of games, there are landmines everywhere. And if you step on one accidentally because they're going, and so now they're going to hold that against you. What, in the strategies of what, bad people will do is they'll set you up like in the coercion, they'll lay traps. You know what I mean? I've written to my attorneys. I'm like, dude, I can't avoid these traps, and there's all the stuff that we see that's just not good about the world now that's, become pretty popular and stuff like that. All this verbal abuse between the politicians and, laws and stuff. Well, that wouldn't happen if this didn't happen, So, now it's like a cause and effect. And now you're saying the effect is the cause, it's like you're mixing them up and stuff like that. Well, that'll freak, that freaks adults out, I never fell for it. I've always been clear-headed and stuff like that because I had a solid upbringing with a solid family and solid sportsmanship and solid scouts and solid bands, because of discipline of music. It's a science. It's a discipline, And if you have those foundations and those principles, which you have, you can't knock that guy off balance. You can torture him, but you can't knock him off balance.
Yeah, my godfather used to say, because he was the one that got me on the trading floor. And you talk about funny, like commodities. You're walking into the thing going, what's a commodity?
What's a
right?
commodity?
They're like, hey, dumbass, you're in the wrong spot.
Except gold doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah. So my godfather calls me up and says, what do you know about this commodity thing? I go, nothing. He goes, well, Vic's son, little Vic, he's on the floor and he makes like $800 a day filling paper. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, what is that? He goes, well, apparently the faster you write, the more money you make, and you write fast. I'm like, yeah. I go, what do? He goes, you just fill orders. You write out orders on a piece of paper. Like he didn't even know, right? So that's how I went on the floor. I didn't know what filling paper was. It was a slang for being a broker, and you had to. It's a lot to it. There's more.
There's the broker, and there's the definition of a broker. I'm a broker. What do? I write paper.
Yeah. I knew you on the floor. We did stuff together periodically. And remember, we had a little interim where we went shooting. You bought a Chevy. It was a 60-something Chevy that had a rumble like any.
Peaches, boy. She had that dual exhaust glass packs.
Yeah. And you would just touch the key and that thing would start up. I remember that. Was it a tan or a white color?
66 Chevy Bel Air. And the actual coating, because I had it reupholstered. with the original. Even the back, the back of the seats, they have that piping.
Yeah.
You can't buy that anymore. So I had them put that original, save that, but put reupholster. And the engine was black glossed with red valve covers.
What was the motor size? Do you remember? It would be like a 327, a 400, a 427.
I can't remember exactly, but I do remember the transmission was a Super Glide. It had
just 2-speed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For dirt track racing, so it wouldn't spin out. Every time you, like on the track, you couldn't change gears because it would spin out. So it had that, but it had dual exhaust glass packs and a 750-watt stereo system. It had 9 speakers.
Nice.
And the subwoofer was jammed. It was a boxed speaker subwoofer. So it didn't just go pump, 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 pump. It went boom, boom, boom. It had the note. And it was stuck into the frame of the car. So you're listening to stuff and the mirror's going. Brr, brr, brr.
That's awesome. So we went shooting a little bit.
It was peach.
Peach, okay.
Fawn, the name of the color, the code from Chevy.
Was it
fawn?
I remember like
the color of a fawn.
Tan type color.
Yes.
I'm not good at describing colors, but
that was nice.
We played golf together. We ran into each other all the time. And I looked at you as just, to me, you were like an anomaly down there. What do I mean by that? You were a good-hearted person. You got along with everybody. Your superpower, one of them is people like you. They warm up to you. You're genuinely interested in them. And I thought you were an outcast down there, kind of like the type of person that your makeup was more on the righteous side, which didn't always mesh well with that cesspool. And I refer to it as a cesspool. And I had the same struggles.
Yes.
You and I both could have gone a lot farther in terms of making money, but it's that line we don't cross, right? And then you get to those lines with many people you deal with, and you're like, what the hell, man? Can't we just maintain, morality and righteousness and make enough money, all of us? Right?
RJ said to me, do not put skeletons in your closet.
Well, that guy was a good guy to me. I had great respect for him. Still do. We had a little falling out over politics, which I'm going to blame myself because I have completely pulled out of that. I don't watch the news anymore. It's been like a month now. I see the news because I'm on social media and I see little blits and blurbs, but it's all psyop to me.
That's right.
Everything.
It's a circus. I got strong in it with like Convention of States. I was a captain of Convention of States in Illinois before I left.
What is that now? Convention of States?
Convention of States is part of the Constitution where the people can get a convention together and submit an amendment to the Constitution, but it has to be defined, and there's all these parameters. And the recent one they wanted to get was term limits and fiscal responsibility. And I can't remember all the names of it, but there was one guy who I really liked. He was with AT&T. He was a big shot at AT&T. Really, just really good people. And they're like, when you start getting this money flowing, it'll change you. And it's like, we thought this one person was going to be really good, but then they saw the money and they went straight to
the nature of man. It's always been that way. Yeah. So let's just talk about term limits real quick, because I've had the conversation with myself, the goods and bads, right?
Right. Double-edged sword on that.
So you could get so old that cognitively you shouldn't be in there. That's the first thing. But how do you draw a line at age? Because I'm 61, you're 66. We're a lot smarter and wiser than we were before. And we might
we'd like to think so.
We will amplify that in 10 years from now. You'll be 76. You could be a great, even better leader at 76. So where would you draw the line in Mark's life where you shouldn't be leading anybody? So that was the downside to term limits. I could be older and actually be of sound mind and body and be the best leader, right? But the thing that makes me flip the other way is the longer you're in power, the more corrupt you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in power. They keep you there, and you cater to the ones that are keeping you there, right?
Yeah, I've seen so much court in the last 20 years. I'm like, God, and then it's in the news now. Some of that's in the national news, and there's, and personally.
Yep.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But we see that in hindsight, with a lot of relationships and stuff. The other thing that's a double-edged sword with the term limits is you get somebody green in there that doesn't know the system. They don't know their way around. And by the time they learn it, they're out on a term limits. That's the other side of it. But we're not going to have any clean government until they start arresting the people who are really being dirty and stuff like that. Dude, you can't. Why is it taking so long? Why is there a problem with this? In some of these courts and these systems and stuff, when you get the immunities and like a cottage industry, where in England, the king couldn't rule everywhere. So he appointed like judges, and the judges said, you take care of your town. You take care of your town. You're out of our jurisdiction. Well, now you can say there's no Thursdays. How do you get, there's a bigger jurisdiction here. Why are you not? In contract law, whenever you say, and it's subject to applicable state and federal laws, subject to applicable state and federal laws. These cottage industries, they just disregard that altogether. And here we have the obvious things that are in the news right now, and I don't even want to talk about it. But I'm like you too. But we have to address that. I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, no, I'm just cynical. It's history tells us where we're going. As history repeats itself. If
you said something scary to me last time we were at that party. I don't want to get into it, but I'll tell you later. I think we got a note. You scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that's never my intention. I want to talk about faith a little bit because you've referenced it a lot. When did your faith start? What when would you
Right
say?
away. I come from a very strict Catholic family, first off. And Dad was he worked at Great Lakes Steel. There was not a ton of money, but they were World War II people. There was, like, our house was a Sears house. Mm-hmm. They maybe paid, I don't know, what, 30 grand, 35 grand for a Sears house?
Maybe not even. Who knows?
Maybe not even. But there was 6 kids. And he put us all through Catholic school, Catholic grade school and Catholic high school.
You don't have any money left over when you're doing that as a parent. You're not living high off the hog.
That is the words that he would use. Oh, you're living high off the hog.
Oh, really?
Yes, because, like if we got a steak dinner at the house or, some sort of a roast, he's a World War II guy. Mom, he was a sergeant in the Army, and Mom she was a seamstress. She sewed parachutes and coffin liners.
Oh, shit.
During World War II. That was her part, And they were constantly ballroom dancing and stuff. And, like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd come down for a drink of water and they're in the living room dancing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We had really good schools. They were very strict, but they were more advanced than what you would get in the public schools. Mm. I didn't know that. I just thought everybody was, this way. And there's some culture shock coming out into the world after that. It's like some of these people are just like mutants to me. And now I think it's just a little bit bigger because when I was going through some ordeal, I went back. Because if you're a healthy person, you're going to admit and you're going to look at what did I do? What could I have done? What,
Accountability.
Yeah. And you're going to do your reality check. Like, how did I get here? How did this happen? So you're reading Aristotle's Ethics and you're reading, healthier books and stuff like that. Some of them are self-help and people will hold you against that. A lot of them were like Eisenhower's book. I read a lot of Nobel Peace Prize winners' books, like the authors, Dalai Lama and stuff like that. But after a while, you get to a point where it's like, you know what? All I have is God, And I even minimize that. I'm like, I just, God is like, you're only good because you want to hear my stereo. And I'm like, yeah, you get what you want and I get what I want. I mean, it's got to be a great stereo, right? God stereo? Are you kidding me? So I've always had that relationship with God himself, not so much religion, although I did tons of guitar masses and tons of worship, and before it became 3-Piece Suit, it was Christian voice records. And right now, this last song is one of my best ones, and it was for a label that said they got contracted with Sony, and the genre was supposed to be Christian country for an 18-year-old. So I started composing for this 18-year-old in a Christian country. And I wrote like 6 songs in 8 days, and I'm submitting them to the label and stuff. And I go, look, you're not responding. And they go, well, we have this big event over here with Sony that we're focused on. Send them to this guy, copy them to this guy. So I copied him to this guy. He's not responding either. Just come to this Sony event. We'll meet all up there with all the Sony people and stuff like that. So I'm like, did you get those songs? And he goes, yeah, this one was really good. It was like spacing out again on Steve Winwood.
Steve Winwood?
Yeah. And he goes,
awesome artist, by the way.
Yeah. He goes, but it's not Christian. I said, what? They go, it's not Christian. Just rewrite it for country, downplay the Christian part. I go, he said it was Christian, country Christian. I wrote 6 songs in 8 days and you didn't stop me? Oh, no, I responded. I'm like, who did you respond to? Like the email. So I ended up with this inventory of songs. And the last one, I can't even read the lyrics. I'll get choked up. You can read them if you want, but, but they're all on Bandcamp now. And I also, like I said, I forgot that I brought you, that I gave you a CD and you gave me your book. Like I said, we were going to trade. But James Reardon is my lyricist, and he wrote the book Break On Through, who it's the book that became the movie The Doors with Val Kilmer.
Because it's a line in their song, or that is a song, right?
Yes.
Break On Through.
No, yeah, that's their
Doors.
song. Yeah, James is a remarkable person, and we did this radio interview, and if you want to listen to that radio interview with Rick at WIMS, that's a great interview. But he takes people that are being released from prison and gets them back on their feet. Mm-hmm. So there's all this goodness in the world. You just got to look for it and stuff like that. This other stuff, let them self-destruct. They're going to get sick. They're going to do sick things and stuff like that. But if the one big takeaway is, it doesn't matter if you're Christian or whatever religion you are, it's not hard to be a good person. It's not hard to be a good person and to do good things.
It's actually one of my fundamentals in life is the biggest cheat in life that leads to your own personal happiness is kindness. When you're kind to somebody, you get an automatic rate of return greater than the receiver you're giving kindness to. It's like a hack in life.
That's right.
It's so easy to be kind. You don't have to pay for it. You can say hello to somebody, thank a veteran. You can do a million different things. Exactly.
You should have seen those guys.
And that's why I love the Pasta Sunday, because all these people come together, they eat and drink, and they share life. Like that to me is one of the best things I can do to put a little life into the world. Sure. And when I do that event, which I'm glad you come to now,
thank you.
I make it a point every time. I will position myself somewhere out of the traffic mix, and I will just close my eyes and I will listen without any visual. Because the sound, you really start to pick up everything that's happening when your eyes are closed. You can hear it all happening, and it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So let me see your album here, and if you'd like, I'll put a link to where they can get it. I actually need my reading glasses now, but one song in this really struck me as brilliant, and it's about kind of the condition of the world, You talk about a little bit of the deception and stuff like that. What is that song?
Let me see.
You talk about kind of the illusions in the world and stuff. I really love that one.
Sleight of Hand?
Yes.
Sleight of Hand.
That's a great song.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what do we got going on now? Tell me about Mark Hebert now.
Back in 2020.
Beginning of COVID.
The beginning of COVID, I still was having a hard time recovering from the ordeal. I mean, it was just so. Mm-hmm. And I called a friend of mine who was also another trader, and I said, "Listen, I got to do something. I cannot get a solid foot. I can't get a solid footing, and now I'm getting old, so I'm getting scareder. And he said, you know what? I got a neighbor that just retired from Aon, and she's work from home. And I got an interview with Aon. They called me right away, and I did the interview. And 2 seconds later, the phone rang, and he goes, "I'm taking you personally on my team." So what they did
What is Aon?
Aon it's an exchange, and what they do is they take like their clients. Their clients are companies, and when they when their employees retire or they're going into their initial enrollment period when they turn 65, some of the rules, the way the company would set up, like schools and the NFL, they would be clients of this Aon, and they would be instructed to call me. And I would transition them from employer plans to Medicare. And, so that's pretty complex stuff, the Medicare and Medicaid and Medigap. And me being a theorist is perfect because I'm meticulous. So, a friend of mine, it's funny too, because I am meticulous, and I'll say, if there's another rule, I won't let you get hit by that train. There's a train coming at you. Beware of that. So this girl, her name is Mary. She's in Texas, I think. And she's like she's pretending to be a client.
You're doing role play?
Role play, yeah. Yes. Right when I was getting started. She said, well, what if this? She threw a curveball at me, and I said, well, unless you do this. And she screamed, Mark, you're on fire. And I go, I'm fired? Why am I fired? She goes, no,
Another April 1st, they're
I was freaking out. I go, I thought, she goes, no, I said you're on fire. So that was fun. I got a lot of awards in that, especially from the management, because people call in, they go, this guy is unbelievable. We were so nervous, going in, and this guy just made it so smooth and humorous, and I get a lot of those. I get a lot, like where I'm at now, we have like 2,000 agents, and they said, not only do you have more than anybody of the 2,000 of this particular accolade, you have more by far. And they celebrated it company-wide. But she moved over to Humana, and I kept seeing the Humana plans come through. And I'm like, I want to go there too. And so I've been there ever since. It's going on 4.5, 5 years, I think. And we just came out of our annual enrollment period, which will kill you. You're working 75, 80 hours a week, but you're getting every kind of scenario. And any type of person can call, somebody from Georgia on a farm, or somebody in New York who's, airline, whatever. And they all have different scenarios, and they all have different health issues, and there's all this formulary of medicines, and there's all that can go wrong. And that's when the real reward comes in. Like somebody's call up, and I've been on the phone for 2 hours. Why is that? And I go, well, now you got me. And they go, why didn't anybody tell me about this? Because they weren't me. And so I get them, you can hear somebody, I'm sorry, did you have a question? He says, no, you're just a badass, and they call in, they go, who can I talk to about you? So I'm really enjoying that.
Good.
And it's a decent compensation package. There's a lot of challenges and stuff, but it's also nice to be able to lend that expertise and experience to these other younger agents. They're, I'm fortunate that I've got a lot of cool people on the team. But I just like to say stupid shit on the, I like to, like when compliance calls up and like, dude, you're right on the edge, And I go, yeah, I know. Did you have a good time? They're like, yeah, I did. But there's compliance and stuff like that. So I'm always, compliant. It fits me. And I think God put me there because, I'm helping a ton of people with really.
It's important stuff.
Pain management, people that, one guy was a cowboy, he's a rodeo guy, and now he's all beat up and, he's on pain management and stuff. And I got to manage all those cases.
That's a real good niche for you to be in.
It is.
Because you're helping people directly, which again, going back to the trading floor, what are we really doing down there? I mean, are we benefiting mankind?
My goal, the whole big picture was when I went there, I'm like, this is a good way to make the amount of money that I want to have to build my recording studio and work and produce the way I want to, because there's so many flakes in this business. And I just told you this one, well, we're a Sony and, well, it's not Christian country. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Do you know how hard it is to build 6 songs in 8 days, full demos, full, introduction, all the lyrics, all the math to build, you're an architect and you're an engineer. That's what that is. And they're nice. This last one was a masterpiece as far as me writing the lyrics and the music, both. Angels all around me. Christian country. Remember, it's a Christian country girl, and I get choked up. So I was driving down a back road. The sky was turning gray. Say something else while I look this up.
Well, you said angels all around me, and that triggered my memory of what happened with Dorothy on the day on the airplane,
Yes.
and she passed away, and the day after, and now I'm getting choked up, the absolute goodness in people.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like I was, that we were accompanied by angels. So
Mhm.
when you said angels all around me, there are good people out there. It gave me hope for humanity, honestly, because I'm cynical. I don't lose sleep about how dark the world is. I'm well aware of how dark it is. I'm ready for it. Bring it on. But that restored some of my faith in mankind.
I was driving down a back road. The sky was turning gray. My heart was beating heavy. I felt I lost my way. Then a whisper in the silence said, "You're not alone, it's true." I looked up through the raindrops, the sunlight breaking through. I've got angels all around me, every step I take. Guide me through the darkness, lighting every move I make. When we're standing in the morning, wondering how we made it through, don't look now, but you've got angels too. It goes on, but
That's brilliant, brother.
It was very hard to sing. There's a couple of songs that, like when I do like the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, there's a piece in there that just messes me up. It's like the church bells chimed 39 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? I'm like, God, how am I going to get through this?
Brilliant line, too.
How am I going to get through this song?
Gordon Lightfoot, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that line, when I get to that, by the time I get to that, I'm so into it. When you're performing and stuff, you're all into it if you're doing it right. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? Who writes like that?
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So this one, this one is, it really, I'm real proud of this one. But now I have this inventory because I'm not an 18-year-old female. So I got all these lyrics that are set as though, because I'm writing for her. It's like I was writing, if I was writing for a pop star or something like that, but it's her, not me. So, but that one I was able to salvage.
Nice. That's awesome. So you're doing something occupationally that you like. What do you do with music? Like, how often are you playing? And tell me again, what is a theorist? Let's color that out a little bit.
Theorist is a little bit hard to explain. It's easier if you just Google it and look at, just read what a theorist is. But for a music theorist, there's economic theory too. There's all kinds of different theory. But for a music theorist, it can be pretty deep because you're getting into physics as well, like how far a bass. The bass frequencies, like we were talking about, they fly at, 700 miles per hour every 9 feet. So if you're in a room that's squished, you're not going to get that throw. So there's that's just the engineering part. But if you're a music theorist, it's the study of harmony. There's 7 aspects to musicality, but they all tie into each other. And there's relationships between everything. And then when you get into mixing and mastering and composing, there's a whole nother level of theory for that. So I do all of that. And a lot of it, I got to credit Ryan McGuire again, because I grew up on tape. So you had to be right. You couldn't play an instrument. It had to be the right note at the right time, at the right volume, in the right style, and the right rhythm and tempo, and it had to be right. Otherwise, you get all over the place. So when I first played with Ryan, it was to save one of the American Idol guys, Lita Wise, and he had to finish an album. And so I write, I do everything. I'm a Swiss Army knife musician. It's like, pick the instrument, pick the style, whatever you want, And I got funny stories from all that too, but Ryan really got me from tape to digital, where you can manipulate things and you can change this and that. And now I'm getting compliments. It's freaking me out. That's my guy Ryan taught me, it's because he went to Berkeley for this software. He got his degree when I first started getting into the digital, I was just starting to recover from the ordeal, just starting. And I called him up and I said, there's a box, like an interface. It's a four-track interface. And I said, but it's got a version of Pro Tools that only works with this. And it's this much. And I go, does that make sense to you? And he goes, that sounds like a no-brainer to me. But I had to, I was restricted on what I could do with it, but I did a lot with it. And, then you learn how to exchange files back and forth with another composer. They can be in another city and stuff like that. But now you can digitally send a file, or you can just send the mathematical assignment, the events in the file. And they can say, okay, we're going to put an organ on it, or we're going to assign a trumpet to it and stuff. So there's all this other science. So I've been doing that like crazy. And there's this album, and I got about 5,000 recordings, I think. There's, SoundClouds and all kinds of stuff. But the music theorist is the one who's actually performing within the 7 aspects of musicality, including all the harmony and everything else that's in the deep, the philosophy behind it and the accompaniment. Like I said, the accompanist is like, what are you going to do? Princess Leia wouldn't be that pretty without that French horn. She wouldn't have been that pretty without the French horn. Tinkerbell music, Darth Vader. I can't remember what Darth Vader's theme is. But they all have themes, and this is all theory, and this is all, I wanted to be, I wanted to get the money together because in the old days, recording studios were like $5-10 million. Now you can build a digital one. There's a lot to be said between tape and digital. Tape is a lot warmer. It has its own influence. And, these Neve boards, they can be $5-6 million, just these Neve, boards, these mixers and stuff like that. And they have their own. And then Abbey Road's got their mixing console, which is, ridiculous. And then there's Muscle Shoals. You've seen movies on Muscle Shoals and stuff. All that stuff is the magic that's behind it and stuff. So I try to recapture it and put out. And I'd like to get noticed. I want to pick your brain on publishers and stuff, because we self-published, James and I, we self-published, but I got to do something, because Ryan and I were talking, we're both over the hill now, we're not going to, I'm not going to, I can still perform. I was up to like 40 solo concerts, and I played piano bar on Michigan Avenue, dude, you're a circus monkey. You're just like, whatever you want. Wow. And, so I've got the skills and I've got the talent and stuff like that, but I never got my big break. And a lot of it was because of the interruption.
Well, I have some other stuff to discuss with you. We'll do it off camera about collaboration.
I appreciate that.
Things are coming into my medium-sized brain now as we're speaking.
Yeah.
This is my book, How to Be a Warrior of Light in a Dark World. It's available on Amazon. It's about mindset and many other things. It's kind of a handbook on life. I have my second book coming called The Gift of Grief. That's at the editor right now, and that will be published probably within a month or two. So thank you all for joining the Warrior Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors. We'll see you at our next show. So through your career, I don't know how much pressure there is in music to perform and pressure in music to come up with writing songs in a certain time frame. I do know the pressures of the trading floor, though. Whatever your pressures were and are in life, how would you say you handle your pressures? Are you good under pressure?
Oh, yeah.
What about the reframe? In other words, perspective. Do you think you overall try to keep a positive perspective?
That's a good question, because a theorist is very objective. So, you could say, well, this, but you could also say that, and they could both be true.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could say this, and then that is a mutant. Get rid of that. And then somebody who's trying to sell that mutant, it's like, no, your math is off. Men don't get pregnant. You know what I mean? Forget about it. You can't say or do that. It's like, if you do, there's, something wrong with you because you're defying nature.
So a theorist, then you have to be a critical thinker. You have to listen to everything, both sides.
All at the same time, too. Mm-hmm. Did you know Tommy Lathan? Tommy Lathan is a wicked great keyboard player. And he and his brothers had a band and stuff like that. And he and I got together musically. We used to play like duets, like 2 grand pianos in restaurants and stuff. Like we made a lot of money at and stuff like, because I play everything. When the bands come in from Europe, they'll say, who can we get, to beef this performance up? And, there's a network and there, like one guy was like, yeah, thanks for suggesting me, but you gotta go get Mark, So I've had a lot of fun with that and stuff. But Tommy Lathan once said to me, he said, on this solo that you did on this album, I can hear you think.
Oh, wow.
And for Tommy Lathan to say that, I would rather play for doctorates than amateurs, like just the common listener. I would rather perform for people who have doctorates in music because they can. James is, written a couple of books about music and stuff like that. And in their interview, he's like, in the past, I've had to limit my lyrics to the 4 chords of the guitar, to the guitarist and stuff. And then he starts laughing. He goes, but with Mark, he can take anything and make it work the way it was intended.
That's awesome. You've been a great support member for a lot of musicians.
Yes. I'm an accompanist.
Accompanist.
Right.
So that's like spice in the stew. You need a little bit more. You need a little bit of uniqueness, whatever, or you're in a pinch or a bind. You're the guy.
Ryan Cheverini, when he came out with his Chicago video, which was great. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. I meant a lot of fun. Musically, there's a lot of criticism and stuff like that. But it was me, I played a big part of it, And when the video came out, it was at the Pump Room with all the, Chicago royalty and stuff like that. When I was setting up on the roof of the Lincoln Hotel, I was setting the keyboards up. And everybody knows, don't come into Mark's. Don't come in here. And we're on the roof and I'm setting up my keyboards and stuff. And Ernie Banks, everybody knows, I'll kill you if you come in here. Don't pass a beer over here. Come on over here. Don't come into my realm. And I'm setting everything up and Ernie Banks comes and he puts himself on my shoulder and he sweeps across the top keyboard. And I look up and Ryan and Louis Vitek and stuff like that, Hebert's going to kill Ernie Banks. And so Ernie says to me, he goes, you've been playing these your whole life, haven't you? And I said, without looking at him, I said, yes, I'm a gypsy, just like you. And then I looked at him and he went, that slow smile came out, what you just did. Yes, I'm a gypsy. And he went, ah. And that was my moment with Ernie Banks.
And a nice man.
He's a real good man, a real good guy.
I was at the driving range and he was sitting there watching people hit balls.
Was
right up over here in Coghill.
But this guy, Ryan Cheverini, who's the talk show host for Thing, we were setting up on the roof, and I asked stuff like, I go, had anybody thought about like bringing a monitor? Because if you're going to have all these people, you got to have a reference if you're lip syncing to make the video, right? Anybody bringing a PA system? And I go, I haven't thought about that. And I go, okay, I got a Roland 550. I'll bring that. And there was a backup singer and there was no cord. There was a microphone. It was just an empty, And I go, dude, you got no cord, no cable and stuff like this. That's okay. It's just a video. I put the cable in, and I did all this, everything. And then all the cameras are filming on the roof and everybody's singing, but they never heard the song before. And so they're not synchronized. So I'm standing behind the camera going, 1, 2, 3, 4, Chicago. So now they know what to do. Chicago. But they never would have known what to do. So at the end, Ryan goes, because I got, like the neighbor's kids. I go, come on, you can be in the crowd scene. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, come on. So I had all their kids and stuff. He goes, get all those kids and come with us. And Ryan McGuire's there, Ryan, so much fun. And so we get there and he goes, get whatever you want. Ryan goes, get whatever you want and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I never brought any attention to myself. I'm a machine. I just do what, And he leans over to me and he goes, I saw everything you did on there. He goes, this wouldn't have had any of the energy that it had. And it would never have worked if you didn't do all those little things and stuff like that. Get what you want, And we became great friends. And then we went to the Pump Room and, Adams, the linebacker from the Bears, Spice Adams. He jumped on my back, like we're at the pump room and stuff like that. And, there's Gian Greco and everybody, April Rose and everything and stuff like that. And we're going to do the release and stuff. And he goes, I want you to meet somebody. He called me up and he said, this guy was like key in bringing this, and Ryan and Lewis are there. And he goes, how many times did I make you redo this, the piano part and stuff like that? And I went, oh, and Ryan goes, 53.
He knew the number.
Then Ryan McGuire, he goes 53 times. And so, it's like things like that. It's the cool things, it's like the cool things.
So tell me, have you had a good ride?
Yeah. I had Stargate, my daughters wanted to rent a scary movie. And I said, no, life is scary enough. I'll get us a thriller. So I rented Stargate, and she was maybe 7, and Frankie 10. And we had the Siberian Husky and the Maltese Cockapoo named I Love Lucy. The Siberian Husky was White Fang. And we were at a play date, and I go, do you have 7 dogs now? And she said, yes. This breeder, the golden retriever breeder, moved in from Jersey, and they don't have a facility built in Illinois, so they're giving these dogs away for the vet bills. You should go get one. So we went to get one, and Jilly pops down on the kitchen floor, and all these dogs come to her, except for one is just like rubbing himself against her. She goes, I want this one. I go, you don't want to look at any of those? She says, no, I want this one. And the lady said, I'm not surprised. She goes, this is the only dog we ever named. And I said,
wow.
Well, what did you name him? She said, Lover Boy. So we get in the car. She goes, she's stroking him in the back seat, And she said, can I name him anything I want? Is he mine? And I go, yeah, he's your dog. She goes, can I name him anything I want? And I'm like, yes. She goes, I want to name him Stargate because he's the color of the desert.
Wow.
7-year-old. That's the way I remember it. But I remember she named him Stargate and stuff like that. So he was my companion for all the, when things got really bad, that's just the way it worked out.
Yeah. It's part of all the divine fabric of how things work.
It's scary.
This is a question I love to ask. And it's a hard question for some people.
I'm listening.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how happy and fulfilled is my friend Mark?
Again, you could have this truth and that truth, and they'd both be correct.
So am I supposed to take that as an answer?
Nobody should have to go through what I went through. But my sister said there was a book that something about silver where you take it out of the ground and it's all dirt. It's just nasty. And the more you rough it up, the sweeter it gets. Mm-hmm. And you get more polished and stuff like that. So now I have a skill set that I wouldn't have had I not getting it beat up, by the best, the most evil, satanic people. They failed, and it's coming out now.
And we don't have to go into that, but what you said, kind of about the dichotomies
good and evil
of perspective. You're sitting here right now, a great person.
Thank you.
Who I love to death. You're funny as fuck.
Funny as fuck.
You're a good friend to a lot of people. You're a mentor to a lot of people. And you went through all that shit, right? Mm-hmm. And you're still going through it, but you're here. Like, you're a survivor. So my perspective on you is you get the warrior badge. And so when you are a chosen one, and not everybody's a chosen one, you have a lot more off-road miles than other people. I've heard a lot of people in my life say God never gives you more than you can handle. And I disagree with that.
So do I.
But then I put a caveat onto that myself, because I'm like, well, my mother died of a drug overdose. Many of my friends committed suicide. God gave them more than they can handle. Mm-hmm. But the caveat is, God will never give you more than you can handle if you believe in him. Then you make it.
He makes it easy.
Yeah.
He makes it easy to take, And
then life gets progressively harder when you lose sight of that, of that singularity of God. And I was a skeptic, and I lost my way for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now when you come back, it's like, where was I thinking?
The prodigal son.
Right.
Prodigal son.
Exactly right.
Book of Job.
And then You just let go. You do your thing.
Let
you
go.
fight the good fight, and you take you take your lumps. And sometimes you fight the good fight, and it ends your life. It's okay. It doesn't matter because this is just a transition to somewhere else anyway.
That's right. There's a lot of people that would have been a lot worse, like that movie, but the Jimmy Stewart movie, Zuzu's Petals.
A Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life. One of my favorites.
I mean, there would be a lot of people that would have been a lot worse off if they didn't learn from what I learned. Mm-hmm. There's a great saying that I really like is great people know that that the greatness doesn't come from inside them. It comes from someplace else and passes through them.
I love that.
This allows them to be humble, making them even more great.
Yeah.
Is that awesome or what?
That is really awesome.
So I'm just like, you know what? I could do what I have to do. My experiences can translate to somebody else and stuff. But then when they start going, you're the greatest. I'm like, nah, it's great. Greatness comes from someplace else and passes through, and now it's with you. And some of the things that one of them is real simple, where I got a call this week, and a person was disenrolled from a drug plan due to non-payment, prescription plan. We're not in an election period for a person to re-enroll in that. She's going to have to wait till next October, which just ended. So she's going to have to go a year without prescription, And the daughter's name was Linda, and I could tell there were a lot of other people in the room. And she goes, "We've been on this phone for like an hour and a half, And I go, "Well, you're not in an election period. You're going to have to wait till October." So she starts to tell me, my mom is blind. This is her plan. She's blind. We've got somebody else that he's not real smart. They stole his wallet, and she didn't see the mail saying, you got to pay this payment, and stuff like that. So I said, "Get a pen and paper," and I started to explain to her the workaround, which I'm not going to say on the internet because that's not something I'm supposed to do. But she goes, "Why didn't anybody tell me this before you?" It says, if you're having a problem with this, call customer care. And I said, "Well, they transfer you to me because I know what I'm doing." And I said, "When you do this, don't worry. Don't have any attitude when you explain these extenuating circumstances, and because they can fix this. Call me if you need." So I get a lot of those situations, and they call back and they go, "Dude, they did it. You saved me." And I didn't get anything commission for it, and it's, or anything like that, but they're never going to forget me, and I'm like, God sent you because I know what I'm doing. It's not that big of a deal. Now, just God bless you and keep you safe. Once again, this is Mark Hebert.
My brother. Anything else you want to cover?
No, I don't think so.
I think you did a great job.
We'll be on 2 hours? 3?
220. So we covered a lot of ground.
It was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it helps people, or it brings back some memories from some of our, I want everybody that was with that contact lens story to call me up and go, "I remember that stupid thing. That was fun."
That's hilarious.
I mean, it's just, and it was Kenny's birthday Tuesday. Ken Weitzman's birthday was Tuesday. And I saw it come up, on my radar, and I was going to call him, but I figured, I'm going to tell this story and ask for forgiveness rather than ask.
That's hilarious.
I didn't tell Ryan McGuire why I was asking either, or Scott Rabin, but I think he was there. I can't remember because I can see the ghosts. Only this one was weird because they were all looking down for my country.
Insanity.
Yeah, awesome. But listen to the album, guys.
Yeah,
go
we're gonna
grab
put. We'll put a link in the description where they can get the album. I love.
There's a couple. There's a few more singles, and then this other one. The lyrics are on it. It's on Bandcamp for this one that I just really.
The one you read the lyrics.
Yeah,
Let's get that out there.
Really proud
too.
of it.
Yeah, let's
really
get that
proud
out there.
Of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do my best with the social media. My brother, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Frank.
I'm going to say, as a fellow human being and a friend, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you too.
Thank you. You have shared a lot of the dark shit that you've been through the years. It would be like, and
tried not to.
Yeah, well, I never knew it was happening because you hold it well. You know
Thank
what I
you.
mean? You
Appreciate
carry
it.
the weight well. So with that said, my brother, I'm going to shake your hand. You're going to get a hug before you leave.
God bless you.
Love you to death,
And
brother.
everybody who's viewing and stuff, thank you for all these great memories. God bless.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Warrior Podcast. I'm here with my dear friend, Mark Hebert. Please look at the links in the comments to get to his music, and we'll see you at our next podcast. And remember, there's a warrior inside us all.
Amen.
Thank you, Mark.
Cheers.